Hello friends. Welcome to the DxD Tales. How are you all? So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Issei was trained by Vergil and unleashed Devil Trigger God DMC x DxD. Also be sure to subscribe and like this video. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The Devil's Apprentice. The fabric between dimensions tore like weathered silk, edges fraying as reality itself protested the violation. A figure emerged through the rift. Tall, white-haired, clothed in blue and black, his face a study in cold calculation as he surveyed the unfamiliar surroundings. Behind him, the dimensional wound sealed with a hiss, stranding Vergil, son of Sparta, in an unknown realm. Evening had fallen over Kuo town, the air carrying spring's first hesitant warmth. Vergil flexed his fingers, sensing the different quality to the atmosphere. Power flowed differently here, following unfamiliar currents. The Yamato hummed at his side, responding to something in this strange world. Dimensional travel without proper coordinates, he murmured, voice precise and clipped. Foolishness. He had been pursuing greater power when a confluence of energies had interfered with the Yamato's dimensional cutting abilities. Now he found himself marooned in this peculiar place, a world that felt simultaneously similar to and utterly different from his own. The human structures resembled Earth's, yet the underlying metaphysical architecture was alien. Vergil closed his eyes, extending his senses. Demons existed here, though their essence differed subtly from those in his world. Angels too, their presence a discordant note to his demonic heritage. And something else, dragons. Intriguing. A scream pierced the evening quiet. Human, terrified, male. Ordinarily, Vergil would have ignored such distress. Human affairs were beneath his concern. But something accompanied that scream, a flare of power so distinctive that the Yamato resonated in response. How unexpected, Vergil said, turning toward the disturbance. His movement was a blur of blue light. Issei Hyodo had imagined his first date would end with a kiss, perhaps even something more if his legendary luck finally turned. Instead, it concluded with a spear of light piercing his abdomen while his date, the beautiful, seemingly shy Yuma Amano, transformed into a winged creature with cruelty dancing in her eyes. It was fun, playing at being your girlfriend, she taunted, her voice no longer gentle but laced with sadistic pleasure. You can blame God for putting a sacred gear inside you. Pain radiated through Issei's body as he collapsed to his knees in the deserted park fountain. His blood, pooled beneath him, appearing black in the fading light. Questions tumbled through his mind. What was a sacred gear? Why did Yuma have wings? Why him? Please, he gasped, reaching toward her with a trembling hand. Such a shame, she sighed, examining her nails with affected boredom. You really were entertaining, so pathetically earnest. She formed another light spear, raising it for the killing blow. Die now, knowing your existence was meaningless. Time seemed to sl. Ow as Issei watched the light spear descending. 17 years. That's all he'd get. No adventures. No achieving his dream of becoming a harem king. Just death at the hands of his first girlfriend. The cruel irony tasted metallic in his mouth, or perhaps that was just blood. A flash of blue light intercepted the spear. The fallen angel's weapon shattered like glass against a katana whose blade seemed to devour the light around it. Behind the sword stood a man unlike any Issei had ever seen, white hair swept back from a severe face, blue coat fluttering despite the still air, and eyes, yes, that contained cold fury so intense they seemed to glow. What the? Yuma, or whatever her name really was, recoiled, wings flaring. Who are you? This doesn't concern you. The stranger regarded her with contempt so refined it bordered on artistry. Your light, it's impure. Diluted. His voice carried no emotion, just clinical assessment. And your technique is abysmal. Fury contorted Yuma's face. How dare you? I am Rainer, fallen angel under Lord Azazel himself. She manifested dual light spears, larger than before. You've just signed your death warrant, human. The white-haired man's expression didn't change, but something like amusement flickered across his eyes. Human. Not entirely. What happened next? Issei could barely follow. Blue afterimages trailing like ghost photographs. The singing of a blade moving faster than perception. Rainer's scream of rage transforming into one of shock, then pain. When his vision cleared, the fallen angel hovered 20 feet away. Blood streaming from multiple precise cuts across her body. Impossible, she gasped. What are you? The stranger sheathed his katana with deliberate slowness. I am the storm that is approaching. Rainer's eyes widened in genuine fear. This isn't over. She turned and fled, wings beating frantically against the night sky. Issei's vision blurred. The pain was fading now, replaced by a spreading coldness. Consciousness slipped from him like water through cupped hands. His last sight was of the stranger turning toward him, studying him with eyes that calculated worth and potential rather than offering compassion. Vergil observed the dying boy dispassionately. Under normal circumstances, he would have continued on his way. Human lives were fleeting things, hardly worth notice. But the energy signature emanating from the boy, it resonated with power that Vergil recognized as valuable. Not merely the demonic essence trying to claim him, some devil faction apparently D designs on this human, but something else. Something ancient and draconic slumbering within. Curious, he murmured, crouching beside the boy. The boy's life was seconds from extinction. Vergil placed his hand over the wound, sensing the complex energies at work. A red gauntlet flashed briefly over the boy's left arm before fading, a physical manifestation of the power within him, responding to mortal danger. Decision made. Vergil unsheathed Yamato once more. With surgical precision, he cut away the light spear's lingering energy, then traced complex patterns in the air above the boy. He was not one for healing magics. That was more his brother Dante's domain, but he understood power manipulation better than most. Your potential shall not be wasted, Vergil stated. Not when it might serve my purpose. He channeled a measure of his own demonic energy into the boy, just enough to jumpstart the healing process and stabilize him until the dormant power within could awaken fully. The wound began closing, flesh knitting together under the influence of Vergil's power. The boy's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and delirious. Am I dead? Not yet, Vergil replied. Though perhaps you wish you were. Confusion clouded the boy's face. Who? Vergil. He stood, towering over the prone figure. And you will address me as master from this moment forward. Master. The boy's voice cracked with bewilderment. I don't understand. Understanding isn't required, only obedience. Vergil's tone permitted no argument. You harbor power, boy. Power you're too weak to access properly. I will rectify that deficiency. Quote, my name is Issei Hyodo, the boy managed, struggling to sit up. Vergil nodded once, acknowledging the information without particularly caring. You were attacked by a fallen angel. One of many supernatural factions in this world. You were targeted because of something you possess, a sacred gear, she called it. The gauntlet that appeared momentarily on your arm. Issei stared at his left arm in confusion. Gauntlet. I don't. It manifested when your life force ebbed to its lowest point. Vergil's explanation was clinically precise. With proper training, you'll summon it at will. Why? Why are you helping me? Issei asked, bewilderment evident. Vergil's expression hardened. Don't mistake this for charity. I sense a convergence of events. Your power, my presence in this realm. Nothing happens without reason. You will become strong, and in return, you will assist my objectives. What objectives? That, Vergil said, is none of your concern for now. He extended his hand, not out of kindness but practicality. Can you stand? We begin tonight. Begin what? Issei asked, taking the offered hand and rising unsteadily. Vergil's smile was cold and without mercy. Your education in power. 3 days passed in a haze of pain and confusion for Issei. Vergil had commandeered an abandoned warehouse at the edge of town, converting it into a Spartan training ground with minimal amenities. A single futon, one chair, and training equipment cobbled together from available materials. The luxury of the outside world felt increasingly distant. Vergil was not a kind teacher. He was brutally efficient, viewing compassion as weakness and restraint as wasted opportunity. Every lesson began and ended with the same message: power is everything. On the fourth morning, Issei collapsed after running his 40th lap around the warehouse perimeter. His lungs burned, muscles screaming in protest. Sweat had soaked through his third T-shirt of the day. Outside, dawn painted the sky in watercolor hues that Issei was too exhausted to appreciate. Pathetic, Vergil commented, not even looking up from his meditation. Again. I can't, Issei gasped, rolling onto his back. Please, master, I'm at my limit. Limits, Vergil replied, rising with fluid grace, are constructs of the weak mind. Barriers to be shattered, not respected. He approached Issei, Yamato in hand. Your body houses power that could level cities, yet you surrender to mere physical fatigue. Disgraceful. Issei pushed himself to his knees, trembling with exhaustion. I'm trying. Trying is meaningless. Only results matter. Vergil circled him like a predator. The fallen angel who nearly killed you wasn't particularly powerful. A mere foot soldier. Yet she overwhelmed you completely. I didn't know about any of this supernatural stuff before, Issei protested. Ignorance, Vergil countered, is the poorest of excuses. He moved suddenly, Yamato's sheath striking Issei's side with enough force to send him sprawling. Pain blossomed across his ribs, a new bruise to join dozens of others that mapped his body like a violent constellation. Your sacred gear responds to emotion, Vergil continued, unmoved by Issei's pain. Particularly negative emotions, fear, anger, desperation. He kicked Issei's prone form, rolling him over. So feel them, embrace them, use them. Anger flared within Issei, not just at Vergil's treatment, but at his own weakness. At Rainer's betrayal. At the unfairness of being thrust into this supernatural world without warning or preparation. The anger built, white-hot and consuming, until something inside him shifted. Power rushed through his veins like liquid fire. His left arm glowed, materialization crawling across his skin, a red gauntlet with a green jewel embedded at its center. Boost. The mechanical voice emanated from the jewel as energy doubled within Issei's body. Strength returned to his limbs. Pain receded. He rose to his feet, staring in wonder at the manifestation on his arm. This is my sacred gear. For the first time, Vergil's expression showed something besides cold indifference, a spark of satisfaction. The boosted gear, one of the 13 Longinus, sacred gears capable of slaying gods. It houses the Welsh dragon, DxD, one of the 2 heavenly dragons. Issei flexed his gauntleted hand, feeling the power pulsing within. It's incredible. It's merely potential, Vergil corrected sharply. Potential means nothing without the skill and will to wield it properly. He drew Yamato in a swift, fluid motion. Now, demonstrate what you can do with this power. The subsequent beatdown was thorough and educational. Despite the boosted gear's enhancement, Issei couldn't land a single hit on Vergil. Each attempt was countered with humiliating ease, each failure punctuated by a precise strike that left Issei gasping on the floor. When the gauntlet finally dematerialized, power exhausted, Issei lay sprawled on the concrete, every muscle screaming in protest. Disappointing, Vergil pronounced, sheathing Yamato. But not unexpected. You possess the weapon but lack the technique. He turned away. Rest for 10 minutes. Then we continue with sword forms. Issei closed his eyes, fatigue washing over him. Why are you doing this? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. What do you get out of training me? Vergil paused. This dimension isn't mine. I was displaced during an attempt to acquire greater power. The Yamato can cut through dimensional barriers. But without precise coordinates, returning becomes problematic. You're from another world. Despite his exhaustion, Issei's curiosity perked up. Another reality entirely. One WHER. Demons and humans have a different relationship than in your world. Vergil glanced at his katana. Your sacred gear's power, properly developed, might provide the necessary energy to facilitate my return. So I'm just a battery to you. Issei concluded, bitterness seeping into his tone. For now, Vergil agreed without apology. But our arrangement need not remain purely transactional. Power recognizes power. Prove your worth, and you may yet earn my respect. Somehow, that cold acknowledgement of potential value motivated Issei more than empty encouragement would have. He struggled to his feet before the 10 minutes had elapsed. I'm ready to continue, master. Vergil's expression didn't change, but something like approval flickered in his eyes. Perhaps there's hope for you yet. 2 weeks into training, unexpected visitors arrived at the warehouse. Issei was practicing summoning and maintaining his sacred gear, a process that had become easier but still required intense concentration. When the massive door slid open, admitting sunlight and 4 figures. My, a female voice purred. So the rumors are true. A new player has entered our little game. Vergil, who had been observing Issei's practice from an elevated platform, straightened. His hand moved to Yamato's hilt with practiced ease. Identify yourselves, he commanded, before I separate you from your presumption. The visitors stepped further into the warehouse's shadowed interior. 3 girls in school uniforms that Issei recognized as belonging to Kuo Academy, and 1 boy with blonde hair. They moved with unnatural grace that immediately identified them as supernatural entities. We mean no harm, the blonde boy said, hands raised placatingly. I'm Kiba Yuto. This is Rias Grimori, heir to the house of Grimori. He indicated a stunning red-haired girl at his side. And her queen, Akano Himahima, along with Kaneko Tuju. Akano, tall and beautiful with long black hair, smiled enigmatically. Beside her, Kaneko, petite with white hair and expressionless eyes, regarded them with cautious assessment. Devils, Vergil noted dispassionately. From your auras, I presume you're part of this peerage system I've heard mentioned. Rias stepped forward, her teal eyes focusing on Issei. We felt the awakening of the boosted gear. Quite an impressive sacred gear for a human to possess. Her gaze shifted to Vergil. Though you're certainly not human, are you? Your energy signature is unusual. My nature is not your concern, Vergil replied coldly. Issei, still maintaining his materialized boosted gear with effort, glanced between his master and the newcomers. These were devils, beings he'd only learned about through Vergil's sparse lectures on this world's supernatural hierarchy. Yet they looked like normal teenagers. Beautiful, impossibly so, but not the horned monstrosities he'd imagined. What do you want? He asked, surprising himself with his directness. Rias smiled at him, a smile calculated to charm and disarm. To offer you protection, Issei Hyodo. And opportunity. She gestured gracefully. The fallen angels who attacked you won't stop. They want your sacred gear, and they'll kill you to get it. Quote, I'm aware, Issei replied, recalling Rainer's cruel expression as she'd tried to murder him. As a devil of the house of Grimori, I can offer you safety. Power. A place among my peerage. Rias took another step forward, her crimson hair catching the light filtering through high windows. You were meant to die that night. I would have revived you as my servant had things gone according to the natural order. Natural order. Vergil's voice cut like Yamato's edge. You speak of orchestrated murder as if it were cosmic destiny. Akano laughed softly behind her hand. My, such intensity. Are you perhaps jealous someone else had designs on your pupil? Tension crackled in the air. Issei felt the jewel in his gauntlet pulse in response to his accelerating heartbeat. Boost. The mechanical voice startled everyone. Power surged through Issei again, doubling his strength. He hadn't intended to activate the gear's ability, but his emotional response had triggered it automatically. Impressive control for a beginner, Kiba observed, hand drifting subtly toward where Issei suspected he concealed a weapon. Rias Grimori, Vergil addressed the red-haired devil directly. Your reputation precedes you. The crimson-haired ruin princess. Sister to one of the 4 great Satans. His tone remained neutral, revealing neither respect nor disdain. But Issei Hyodo is my apprentice now. Whatever plans you had for him are obsolete. Rias's pleasant expression cooled slightly. Is that his choice, or yours? All eyes turned to Issei, who realized with sudden clarity that his decision in this moment would shape his future irrevocably. The devils offered community, protection, a structured path to power. Vergil offered brutal training, uncompromising standards, and a philosophy centered on absolute self-reliance. The boosted gear pulsed against his arm, as if responding to his thoughts. In the jewel's reflection, he caught a glimpse of his own face, thinner now, harder. The softness of adolescence already beginning to be carved away by Vergil's regimen. I choose to continue my training with Master Vergil, Issei said, voice ste. 80 despite the tension crackling through the warehouse. But I appreciate your offer, Grimori-san. Rias studied him with calculating eyes. Are you certain? The path you're choosing is dangerous. Solitary. Devils offer community and protection. At the cost of servitude, Vergil interjected. Eternal servitude, if I understand your system correctly. We prefer to think of it as mutually beneficial employment, Akano countered. still smiling that mysterious smile. Kaneko, who had remained silent until now, spoke in a monotone. He smells of dragon. And something else. Her nose wrinkled slightly. Something demonic but different from us. Perceptive, Vergil acknowledged with the barest nod. The boy is developing his own power, influenced by my investments in his training. Issei blinked at this. Vergil had been infusing him with demonic energy. That explained the strange dreams, the occasional flashes of blue light beneath his skin when he pushed himself to his limits. Rias sighed, a calculated gesture of regret. Very well, we respect your decision, Issei Hyodo. She produced a small paper with a complex magical circle inscribed upon it. Should you change your mind, or need assistance, this summoning circle will contact me directly. She offered it to Issei, who accepted it with his non-gauntleted hand. The paper tingled against his fingers, magic recognizing magic. We'll take our leave then, Rias concluded, turning gracefully. At the warehouse entrance, she paused, glancing back over her shoulder. One last thing. The fallen angels have established a base at the abandoned church on the hill. I'd advise avoiding that area, though something tells me you two aren't the type to heed cautionary advice. After the devils departed, silence descended upon the warehouse. Issei stared at the summoning circle in his hand, then at the boosted gear still materialized on his arm. You chose correctly, Vergil stated, as if commenting on the weather. Did I? Issei asked, genuinely uncertain. Devils offer power through shortcuts. Through servitude and external sources. Vergil descended from his observation platform in a single fluid leap. I offer the harder path. Power that comes from within, cultivated through discipline and will. Why does it matter to you how I gain power? Issei asked. As long as I become strong enough to help you return to your world. Vergil's expression tightened momentarily. Power given is power that can be taken away. Power earned cannot be so easily stripped from you. He turned away, staring at the wall. As if seeing through it to distant horizons. I learned that lesson, painfully. It was the most personal statement Vergil had ever made in Issei's presence. Before Issei could respond, Vergil continued in his usual dispassionate tone. Your control over the boosted gear is improving. Next, we focus on maintaining multiple consecutive boosts without losing focus. Just like that, the moment of vulnerability vanished, replaced by the relentless training regimen. But something had changed, some imperceptible shift in their relationship. For the first time, Issei glimpsed the man behind the merciless master. Moonlight painted Kuo town in silver and shadow as Issei moved across rooftops, testing his enhanced agility. 4 weeks of Vergil's ruthless training had transformed him physically. Lean muscle replacing adolescent softness, reflexes sharpened to preternatural levels. He could now maintain the boosted gear for nearly an hour and stack 3 consecutive boosts before reaching his limit. Tonight marked his first solo patrol, Vergil's test of his progress. The objective was simple. Circle the perimeter of the town, avoiding detection by humans and supernatural entities alike. Then gather intelligence on the fallen angel presence at the abandoned church. Reconnaissance only, no engagement. Vergil had been explicit about that last point, emphasizing that Issei wasn't yet ready to face multiple fallen angels in combat. The night air felt electric against Issei's skin as he leapt between buildings, movements increasingly fluid and silent. This freedom, this power, coursing through his veins, it was intoxicating. For all the brutality of Vergil's methods, Issei couldn't deny their effectiveness. He was becoming something more than human. Something that could stand in this supernatural world rather than being victimized by it. Boost. He activated the gear deliberately this time, feeling strength and speed double as he cleared a particularly wide gap between buildings. The landing on the opposite roof was nearly silent, a vast improvement over his earlier attempts, which had sounded, according to Vergil, like a drunken troll dropping anvils. As he approached the commercial district, a flare of energy caught his attention, familiar in its wrongness. Fallen angel power. Changing direction mid-leap, Issei moved toward the disturbance, careful to maintain stealth as Vergil had drilled into him. In an alley behind a convenience store, he found his target. A fallen angel, not Rainer, but a tall male with a trench coat and fedora, had cornered a human girl. The malevolent energy of a light spear illuminated the fallen's cruel smile. "Please," the girl whimpered, pressing herself against the brick wall. "I don't understand what you want." "Don't play dumb," the fallen angel replied, voice oily with malice. "We know you've been contacting devils. Lord Kokabeel wants all devil sympathizers eliminated." Issei's fists clenched. This wasn't part of his mission. Vergil's instructions had been clear: observation only. Getting involved would reveal his presence to the fallen angels prematurely, potentially jeopardizing whatever larger plan Vergil was constructing. But watching an innocent die, when he had the power to prevent it. The girl's terrified eyes reflected the light spear's glow as the fallen angel raised it for the killing blow. Decision made. Issei dropped from his perch, boosted gear manifesting mid-fall. "Hey, Feather Brain," he called, landing between the fallen angel and his intended victim. "Pick on someone your own size." The fallen angel whirled, eyes widening at the sight of the gauntlet. "The Red Dragon Emperor." "Impossible. Raynor said she killed you." "She tried," Issei acknowledged, settling into the fighting stance Vergil had drilled into him. "She failed." "Who trained you?" the fallen demanded, forming a second light spear. "The devils. Pathetic pawns in a game they don't understand." Issei didn't waste breath responding. Instead, he recalled Vergil's lessons on combat efficiency. Words are wasted energy in battle. Let your actions speak instead. Boost. Energy surged as Issei launched himself forward. Moving as Vergil had taught him. Direct, efficient, without telegraphing his intentions. The fallen angel hurled both light spears, but Issei twisted between them, the deadly projectiles missing by millimeters. Before the fallen could form new weapons, Issei closed the distance, gauntleted fist connecting with supernatural force. The impact sent the fallen angel crashing into a dumpster, metal denting under the impact. "Filthy human," the fallen snarled, black wings flaring as he struggled upright. Blood trickled from his mouth, eyes glowing with hatred. "I am DxD, servant of Lord Kokabeel. You think one lucky punch makes you my equal?" DxD lunged forward, light daggers forming in each hand. His speed exceeded what Issei had anticipated. Clearly, this fallen was more powerful than Raynor had been. A dagger sliced across Issei's shoulder, pain blooming in its wake. Boost. A third doubling of power answered Issei's need. Using the enhanced strength, he caught DxD's wrist on the next attack, applying pressure until bones cracked beneath his grip. The fallen howled in pain, second dagger driving toward Issei's heart, only to be deflected by the armored gauntlet. "Impossible," DxD gasped. "A novice sacred gear user shouldn't have this control." "I had a good teacher," Issei replied, thinking of Vergil's merciless drills. With his free hand, Issei delivered a punishing blow to DxD's solar plexus, another of Vergil's lessons on targeting vulnerable anatomy. The fallen doubled over, gasping. A knee to the face sent him sprawling. Vergil's voice echoed in Issei's mind. "When an enemy is defeated, finish them. Mercy creates future opponents." Issei stood over the fallen angel, boosted gear pulsing with accumulated power. One more strike would end DxD permanently. It would be the logical conclusion to this confrontation. But something in Issei, some core of humanity that Vergil's training hadn't yet excised, hesitated. "Tell Raynor and the others," he said instead, voice harder than he'd ever heard it, "that Issei Hyodo is coming for them. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. And when I do, they'll pay for everyone they've hurt." Fear replaced the hatred in DxD's eyes. "You're making a mistake, boy. Lord Kokabeel won't tolerate." "I don't care what your lord tolerates," Issei cut him off. "Go, now, before I change my mind." The fallen angel scrambled to his feet, wings unfurling as he launched into the night sky. Issei watched him disappear, already second-guessing his decision. Would Vergil consider this mercy a failure? Probably. A small sound behind him reminded Issei of the girl he'd saved. He turned to find her pressed against the wall, staring at him with wide, frightened eyes. Are you a devil too?" she asked, voice trembling. "No," Issei replied, the boosted gear dematerializing as his adrenaline subsided. "Just a human with some extra abilities." She studied him uncertainly. "Why did you save me?" The question caught Issei off guard. Vergil would have an answer ready, something about tactical advantages or gathering information. But the truth was simpler. Because it was the right thing to do, he said finally. The girl's expression softened slightly. Thank you. My name is Ossia Argento. I just arrived in town yesterday. Issei Hyodo. He offered his non-gauntleted hand, which she took hesitantly. Why did that fallen angel think you were contacting devils? Asia's gaze dropped. I was sent here by the church. At least, I thought it was the church. Now I don't know who to trust. Issei frowned. A nun involved with fallen angels. The situation was more complicated than it appeared. It's not safe for you to be alone. Do you have somewhere to stay? The church on the hill, she replied. But I'm afraid to go back there now. Issei tensed. The abandoned church. Fallen angel headquarters according to Rias Grimori. If Asia had been staying there, she was either their unwitting pawn or... Do you know about the fallen angels? What they really are? He asked carefully. Asia nodded, sadness clouding her features. I was excommunicated from the church for healing a devil. They said my sacred gear, twilight healing, was a gift from God that shouldn't be used for evil beings. She held up her hands, showing rings on her fingers that pulsed with gentle green light. But I believe all wounded deserve compassion. A fellow sacred gear user. One with healing abilities, no less. Vergil would definitely be interested in this development. Though Issei suspected his master's interest would be purely pragmatic rather than compassionate. Come with me, Issei decided, offering his hand again. I know someone who can help you understand what's happening. And maybe you can help us too. As they left the alley, Issei glanced back in the direction Danesik had fled. The confrontation would accelerate Vergil's timetable, whatever it was. The fallen angels now knew that not only was Issei alive, but he was trained and growing stronger. War was coming, sooner than planned, perhaps, but inevitable nonetheless. Vergil's reaction to Issei's improvisation was precisely as expected. Cold fury barely contained behind glacial eyes. You had explicit instructions, he stated, pacing the warehouse floor like a caged predator. Reconnaissance. Intelligence gathering. Nothing more. I couldn't just watch her die, Issei countered, standing his ground despite the suffocating pressure of Vergil's anger. Asia sat nervously on a wooden crate, hands clasped in her lap. The warehouse's stark environment clearly unsettled her, but she remained silent as master and student clashed. Sentiment. Vergil pronounced the word like a disease. The eternal weakness of humans. You've now alerted our enemies to your survival, your progress, and worst of all, my presence in this realm. I didn't mention you, Issei protested. You didn't need to. Vergil gestured sharply with Yamato's sheathed form. Your fighting style, your control over the sacred gear, these things reveal my influence to anyone with the intelligence to recognize it. Issei absorbed the criticism, knowing Vergil was technically correct. But he wouldn't, apologize for saving Asia's life. The girl, Vergil continued, turning his cold gaze toward Asia, who flinched visibly. A healer with a sacred gear. Useful, I grant you. But now another responsibility, another vulnerability. I can defend myself. Asia spoke up, voice small but determined. I may not have offensive abilities, but twilight healing can support fighters. Vergil studied her with clinical detachment. Show me. Asia hesitated, then activated her sacred gear. Green light emanated from twin rings on her fingers, bathing the immediate area in soothing illumination. I can heal almost any injury, she explained. Even ones caused by holy or demonic power. Demonstrate, Vergil commanded, suddenly drawing Yamato and slicing a precise cut across Issei's forearm. Hey, Issei protested as blood welled from the shallow wound. Master Vergil, Asia gasped, rushing forward. She placed her hands over Issei's arm, the green light intensifying. Under her touch, the wound closed seamlessly, leaving unblemished skin. Vergil observed the process with calculating interest. Efficient. No energy wastage. He sheathed Yamato in a fluid motion. The fallen angels want this power, I presume. Asia nodded, withdrawing her hands from Issei's healed arm. They said they needed to extract it. Quote, extract. Issei repeated, a chill running down his spine. You mean remove your sacred gear? But that would kill her. Yes, Vergil finished dispassionately. Sacred gears are bound to the soul. Removal equals death. Asia's face paled, but she showed remarkable composure. I suspected as much, when they started talking about ceremonies and extraction rituals. Vergil's expression remained unreadable as he processed this information. Then, to Issei's surprise, his master nodded once, a decision reached. The fallen angel's plan accelerates our timetable, Vergil stated. But it also presents opportunity. He fixed Issei with an intense gaze. You're progressing adequately, but too slowly for what's coming. We must catalyze your development. How? Issei asked, both eager and apprehensive. Instead of answering directly, Vergil turned to Asia. Your healing abilities, they can counteract the negative effects of forced power evolution. Asia hesitated. I think so, but pushing someone's power artificially is dangerous. Life is dangerous, Vergil countered flatly. Safety is an illusion clung to by the weak. He approached Issei, studying him with new calculation. Your sacred gear responds to emotion and danger. The dragon within awakens when your life is threatened. His hand moved to Yamato's hilt. We've been too conservative in our approach. Issei swallowed nervously. What exactly are you suggesting, Master? That we stop treating your power like a fragile seedling to be nurtured. Vergil's eyes gleamed with cold purpose. And start treating it like the dormant inferno it truly is. Asia stepped forward, concern evident. You can't mean to deliberately endanger his life. Precisely that. Vergil's tone brooked no argument. With you present to heal any damage, we can push beyond conventional limits. The implications settled over Issei like a physical weight. Vergil intended to bring him repeatedly to the brink of death, forcing his sacred gear to evolve through desperation rather than gradual development. It was insane, reckless, and yet, hadn't Issei felt the boosted gear respond most powerfully during moments of greatest danger? Facing Rainer, confronting Danesik, the power inside him seemed to thrive on adversity. I'll do it, he decided, squaring his shoulders. Issei-san, Asia protested. This is too dangerous. The fallen angels won't wait while I develop at a comfortable pace, Issei replied, finding resolve in the truth of his words. They're planning something big, something that involves sacred gears. We need to be ready. Vergil nodded, satisfaction evident in his posture if not his expression. We begin tomorrow at dawn. Rest well tonight. It may be your last peaceful sleep for some time. As Vergil strode away to make preparations, Asia touched Issei's arm gently. Why do you follow him? She asked quietly. He's so cold. Issei watched his master's retreating form, considering the question carefully. Because beneath all that coldness is something I need. Power, Asia asked. Purpose, Issei corrected. Before I met him, I was just existing. Going through life focused on trivial things. He flexed his left hand, remembering the weight of the boosted gear. Vergil showed me what I could become if I were willing to endure the process. Asia studied him with surprising perception. And what will you become, Issei-san? The question lingered in the warehouse's stale air. What indeed? Vergil's path led to power, certainly, but at what cost to Issei's humanity? Could he walk the line between human and something more without losing himself entirely? I don't know yet, he admitted finally. But I'm starting to think that's okay. That the becoming itself might be the point. Asia smiled then, a gentle expression that seemed to illuminate the grim warehouse from within. Then I'll help you, both of you, even if I don't fully understand this path you're on. Something warm unfurled in Issei's chest. Gratitude, certainly, but something more. A connection that had nothing to do with sacred gears or supernatural powers. Just two people finding unexpected alliance in a dangerous world. Thank you, Asia, he said simply. Outside, night deepened over Kuo town. In an abandoned church on the hill, fallen angels plotted. In a mansion across town, devils watched and waited. And in a Spartan warehouse, an unlikely trio prepared for the crucible to come. A human boy with a dragon's power, a healer with a heart of compassion. And a half-demon swordsman stranded between dimensions. The storm was approaching, and when it broke, nothing would remain unchanged. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Power Awakening. 3 months tr. Ants formed Kuo town from spring to summer, heat rising from concrete in shimmering waves as cicadas droned their hypnotic rhythm. The abandoned warehouse that had become Vergil's training ground remained unnaturally cool. A side effect of the half-devil's power influencing the immediate environment. Within those walls, transformation of a different sort had taken place. Issei Hyodo stood at the center of the training floor, barefoot and shirtless, perspiration gleaming on well-defined muscles that hadn't existed 3 months prior. His left arm bore the boosted gear in its fully materialized form, the dragon scale gauntlet extending from fingertips to shoulder. Before him, a dozen training dummies, cobbled together from scrap metal, concrete blocks, and wooden posts, stood in irregular formation. "Begin," Vergil commanded from his observation point. "Boost." The sacred gear's mechanical voice echoed as energy doubled within Issei's body. He moved with deliberate precision, striking the first dummy with enough force to shatter its concrete core. Without pausing, he pivoted toward the second target. Boost. Another doubling of power. The second and third dummies fell to a combination of strikes that flowed together like water. No wasted motion, no theatrical flourishes, just ruthless efficiency. Vergil's influence evident in every calculated movement. Boost. The third P.O.R. amplification sent green energy crackling along Issei's arm. He leapt upward, clearing 15 feet with ease, then descended upon the remaining targets in a blur of red and green light. Concrete pulverized, metal bent and tore, wood splintered. When stillness returned, Issei stood amid the destruction, breathing controlled despite the exertion. His eyes, once ordinary brown, now held flecks of emerald that pulsed in synchronization with the sacred gear's jewel. 7 seconds, Vergil noted, consulting a pocket watch of antique design. Improvement. 3 consecutive boosts maintained without degradation. He descended from his perch, Yamato never leaving his side. But your final strike pattern was inefficient. You sacrificed precision for dramatic effect. Issei nodded, accepting the criticism without complaint. I felt the power wanting to be expressed differently. Like it has its own preferences. Vergil's eyes narrowed fractionally, the closest he came to showing surprise. Elaborate. It's hard to explain. Issei flexed the gauntleted hand, watching emerald light play across the scales. Sometimes I feel suggestions. Impulses that don't seem entirely mine. The dragon awakens, Vergil murmured. Earlier than expected, Asia, who had been observing from a safe distance, approached with a towel and water. Over the past months, she had transformed their Pardon headquarters into something approaching habitable. Clean bedding, basic furniture salvaged from discarded items, even curtains partitioning off sleeping areas for privacy. Small comforts that Vergil tolerated with indifferent permission. You were amazing, Issei-san, she offered the towel with a warm smile. That's the longest you've maintained triple boost. Issei accepted the towel gratefully, wiping sweat from his face. Thanks to your healing, I can push harder without worrying about tearing muscles. Asia's sacred gear, Twilight Healing, had indeed proven invaluable. Vergil's reigning methods grew increasingly brutal as Issei developed, pushing him repeatedly to physical breaking points that would have resulted in permanent injury without Asia's intervention. Your progress accelerates, Vergil observed, inspecting the destruction with clinical detachment. But the fallen angels have been too quiet. 3 months without significant movement. His expression darkened slightly. It suggests preparation for something substantial. Issei deactivated the boosted gear, the gauntlet dissolving into particles of red light that sank beneath his skin. Maybe they've given up, even as he suggested it. He knew better. Supernatural entities didn't simply abandon their objectives. Unlikely. Vergil turned toward their makeshift planning area, a wall covered with maps, notes, and intelligence gathered through careful observation of Kuo Town's supernatural activity. The church remains occupied, energy signatures consistent with ritual preparation. They're planning something significant. Asia flinched at mention of the church. Despite months passing, the trauma of her near sacrifice remained fresh. The ritual would require a celestial event, she offered quietly. If they intend to extract sacred gears, they'd need astronomical alignment to amplify the procedure. Vergil nodded once, his version of approval. Research the celestial calendar. Identify potential dates. Asia nodded, moving toward the small desk where she'd established a research station. Books borrowed from the local library, notes in neat handwriting, and a laptop Issei had purchased with money earned from odd jobs around town, all arranged with methodical precision. What about tonight's patrol? Issei asked, pulling on a black t-shirt that bore evidence of previous training sessions in its meticulously repaired tiers. Southeast Quadrant, focusing on Devil territory, Vergil replied, marking the area on their map. The Grimoire girl has been expanding her influence. I want to know why. Issei nodded, suppressing a small twinge of curiosity about Rias Grimoire and her peerage. Despite rejecting her offer months ago, he occasionally wondered how different his path might have been under her guidance instead of Vergil's. Will you be accompanying me tonight? He asked. Vergil shook his head once. Solo operation. Your stealth has improved sufficiently. He fixed Issei with an assessing gaze. Unless you feel unprepared. The question contained its own challenge. In Vergil's philosophy, admitting unreadiness was admitting failure. I'm ready, Issei confirmed. A slight nod acknowledged his response. Begin after sunset. Observation only. No engagement without necessity. Vergil turned away. Conversation concluded with characteristic abruptness. As his master moved toward his personal meditation space, Issei exchanged glances with Asia. 3 months had taught them both to read between Vergil's sparse lines. He's worried about something, Asia whispered once Vergil was out of earshot. Issei nodded, keeping his voice equally low. He's been more intense than usual. Pushing harder with training, spending more time in meditation. Do you think it's about getting back to his world? Maybe. Issei rolled his shoulder, feeling the pleasant ache of muscles pushed to their limit. Or maybe he's sensed something we haven't. Asia tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear, concern evident in her gentle eyes. Be careful tonight, Issei-san. I have a strange feeling. I always am, he assured her with a confidence he'd earned through months of rigorous development. Neither could have known how prophetic Asia's unease would prove before the night was through. Dreams had become different since Vergil began infusing Issei with demonic energy. More vivid, more meaningful, sometimes prophetic. Tonight's dream began as many recent ones had, with fire. Not ordinary flame, but something hotter, purer, more primordial. It bathed a land's cape of broken towers and shattered earth, illuminating a sky torn open to reveal swirling chaos beyond. Within the conflagration stood 2 figures. One massive and draconic, scales red as fresh blood, eyes green as the jewel in Issei's sacred gear. The other humanoid but unmistakably demonic, wreathed in blue energy that curved into spectral wings. The merging continues, the dragon rumbled, the OICE resonating through Issei's consciousness. Faster than anticipated, the demonic figure, bearing a striking resemblance to Vergil, yet different in subtle, unsettling ways, responded with cold precision. The human vessel's adaptability exceeds parameters. Dimensional transference accelerates the process. He will hear us soon, the dragon cautioned. Already his consciousness brushes against the barrier. The demonic figure turned, seeming to look directly at Issei, through him, with eyes that burned like blue stars. Then preparation becomes imperative. The convergence approaches. When barriers fall, the dream shattered as Issei jerked awake, gasping, left arm burning with phantom pain. He sat up on his futon, glancing around the darkened warehouse. Asia slept peacefully behind her curtained alcove. Vergil, as usual, showed no signs of ordinary sleep, seated in meditative posture, Yamato across his lap, eyes closed but presence vigilant. Just a dream, Issei told himself, flexing his left hand. Except it wasn't. Something about the dragon's voice resonated with familiar power. And the blue-wreathed figure. He shook his head, dispelling lingering dream images. Sunset approached. Patrol would begin soon. Better to focus on immediate responsibilities than metaphysical visions. Rising silently, Issei moved to his small trunk of possessions. From within, he removed things specifically designed for night operations, dark fabric reinforced at strategic points, flexible enough for acrobatic movement, with minimal surface area that might catch or rustle during stealth approaches. A gift from Vergil, materializing one morning without explanation or acknowledgement. As he dressed, Issei caught his reflection in a fragment of mirror mounted to the wall. The face looking back barely resembled the boy he'd been 3 months ago. Sharper features, more defined musculature, eyes holding something that hadn't been there before, certainty, perhaps. Or purpose. The changed reflection startles you. Issei turned to find Vergil watching him, eyes open now, expression unreadable as always. I barely recognize myself sometimes, Issei admitted, securing the reinforce D combat boots that completed his outfit. Metamorphosis is rarely comfortable. Vergil rose in a fluid motion, Yamato shifting to its customary position at his hip. Yet necessary for ascension. Ascension to what, exactly? The question escaped before Issei could reconsider its wisdom. Questioning Vergil's philosophy rarely yielded satisfying answers. To his surprise, Vergil approached, studying him with uncharacteristic focus. You stand at a convergence point, Issei Hyodo. Dragon, human, and now, through my intervention, something more. He gestured toward Issei's left arm, where the boosted gear lay dormant beneath skin. 3 natures, seeking equilibrium. Is that even possible? Issei asked, genuine uncertainty bleeding through. To balance such different aspects. Balance implies equality. Vergil corrected sharply. What you seek is dominance. Your human will asserting control over these powers, bending them to your purpose rather than being consumed by them. The answer resonated with truth. Yet left Issei unsettled. And if I fail, then you become a vessel rather than a wielder. Vergil turned away, conversation apparently concluded. Daylight fades. Begin your patrol. Issei nodded, moving toward the warehouse exit. At the door, he paused, another question forming, one he'd wondered about for months. Master Vergil, he began cautiously, in your world, did you ever meet others like me? Sacred gear users, are people with dragons inside them. Vergil didn't turn, but his posture shifted subtly, a minute tensing. No, he answered after a moment. But I encountered a man who, like you, harbored multiple natures in constant conflict. What happened to him? He embraced power without understanding its price. Vergil's voice carried unusual weight. Remember that, during your patrol tonight. With that cryptic warning lingering in the air, Issei slipped into the gathering darkness, leaving the warehouse behind. Kuo town transformed after sunset. By day, an ordinary Japanese municipality with schools, businesses, and residential areas arranged in predictable patterns. By night, a supernatural battleground where factions established territories, conducted rituals, and occasionally clashed along carefully negotiated boundaries. Issei moved across rooftops with practiced ease, his enhanced physiology allowing feats impossible for normal humans. 3 consecutive patrols through the southeast quadrant had revealed increasing devil activity, primarily Grimoire Peerage members escorting humans to and from summoning locations. Tonight, however, brought something new. A magic circle glowing crimson against the backdrop of Kuo Academy's main building. From his observation point atop a neighboring structure, Issei activated a subtle detection ability Vergil had taught him, extending awareness rather than physical senses. 4 devils present, Rias Grimoire herself, accompanied by her queen, Akano Himahima, and 2 others Issei didn't recognize, a young man with light brown hair and a girl with blue-green hair wielding what appeared to be a massive sword wrapped in cloth. They stood in defensive formation, facing. Issei's breath caught. Rainer, the fallen angel who'd tried to kill him months ago, now confronting the devil group with 3 companions, Danesik among them, his expression darkening upon recognizing Rias. Activating the boosted gear would alert both factions to his presence, so Issei concentrated instead on his hearing, another enhancement from Vergil's training. Trespassing on my territory, Rainer, Rias was saying, voice carrying authority despite her youthful appearance. The agreement between Grigori and the Devil Kingdoms is explicit. Rainer laughed, the sound lacking any genuine mirth. Agreements change. Little princess. Lord Kokabiel's patience with devil expansion has limits. Kokabiel. Rias tensed visibly. Azazel sent you. Lord Kokabiel speaks for himself, Rainer replied, forming a light spear that pulsed with malevolent energy. And his message is clear: withdraw from this town, or face extinction. Akano stepped forward, electricity crackling between her fingertips. My, such bold threats from such a low-ranking fallen. Perhaps you need a reminder of your place in the hierarchy. The standoff intensified, power signatures flaring from both groups. Issei remained motionless, gathering intelligence as instructed. Direct intervention would violate Vergil's orders and potentially complicate an already volatile situation. Then Rainer said something that changed everything. The extraction ritual is nearly prepared. After tomorrow night's ceremony, we'll possess power beyond anything your precious Satans can muster. Her smile turned cruel, beginning with that nun's twilight healing. Quote, Asia, they still plan to extract her sacred gear, despite months of protection. Issei's fists clenched involuntarily. You speak of forbidden techniques, Rias responded, eyes narrowing. Sacred gear extraction violates the accords between all factions. Desperate times, DxD interjected with a dismissive gesture. The nun is merely the beginning. We've identified other sacred gear users in this region. His gaze swept the academy grounds, including the Red Dragon Emperor, should he still live. Issei's control faltered. The boosted gear, partially materialized in response to his emotional spike, green light briefly illuminating his position before he forced the manifestation down. A rookie mistake, one Vergil would punish severely. Too late. Raynor's head snapped toward his location, eyes widening in recognition. Well, she called, voice pitched to Carrie. Our little dragon emerges from hiding. Come to spy on the adults. Conversation, Issei-kun. Every head turned toward his position. Concealment compromised, Issei made a tactical decision. Rather than retreating, he stood, allowing the boosted gear to fully materialize. Not hiding, he replied, voice carrying easily in the night air. Observing. There's a difference. He dropped from his perch, landing in a controlled crouch 30 feet from both groups. The impact cracked concrete beneath his boots, a deliberate display of enhanced strength. Rias Grimori recovered first from her surprise. Issei Hyodo, you've changed since our last encounter. Circumstances required it, he replied neutrally, studying both groups with the analytical detachment Vergil had drilled into him. Raynor's expression shifted from shock to fury. Impossible. I killed you. You tried, Issei corrected, echoing his response to DxD months earlier. Your aim needs work. The fallen angel's wings flared with agitation. How? There was no one. Understanding dawned in her eyes. Someone interfered. Who? Instead of answering, Issei activated the boosted gear's power. Boost. Green light pulsed from the jewel as power doubled within him. I heard what you said about Asia, he stated flatly. About the extraction ritual. The nun is Grigori property, Raynor snarled, forming twin light spears. Her sacred gear will serve our cause whether she cooperates or not. Ossia Argento is under my protection, Issei countered, dropping into a fighting stance. She's not property. She's not a tool, and you're not touching her. Akino laughed softly, the sound both amused and appreciative. My, the rumors about you were understated, it seems. Electricity continued dancing between her fingers as she studied Issei with newfound interest. Such intensity. Issei maintained focus on Raynor, recognizing her as the primary threat despite Akino's distracting presence. The fallen angel's expression had transformed from shock to calculating malice. You've developed some skill with the boosted gear, she observed. Impressive for a few months' work. But you're still outnumbered and outclassed. She gestured to her companions, who spread out in flanking positions. 4 fallen angels against 1 novice sacred gear user. The outcome is predetermined. Boost. A second doubling answered Issei's will. Nothing is predetermined, he replied, Vergil's philosophy emerging in his words. Power shapes destiny, not circumstances. Raynor laughed incredulously. You sound like someone else entirely. What happened to the pathetic boy who swooned over a pretty face? He grew up, Issei answered simply, and learned about power. The confrontation hung in perfect balance, fallen angels poised to attack, devils maintaining defensive posture. Issei standing between them in a no-man's land of conflicting supernatural jurisdictions. Rias broke the stalemate with unexpected diplomacy. This confrontation serves no productive purpose, she stated, addressing both Raynor and Issei. Whatever ceremony you're planning, Raynor, be warned that it constitutes an act of war against devil territories. Consider carefully before proceeding. Your threats mean nothing, Raynor sneered. After tomorrow night, the power balance shifts permanently. Then you've made your position clear. Rias gestured, and a transportation circle formed beneath her group. We'll respond accordingly. As the devils began to vanish in crimson light, Akino's gaze lingered on Issei. Until next time, Dragon-kun, she called, voice containing promise rather than threat. I look forward to seeing what else you've learned. The devils disappeared, leaving Issei facing 4 fallen angels alone. Boost. The third doubling maxed out his current capacity. Power thrummed through his body, setting nerves alight with potential energy. Leave, he commanded, green light reflecting off nearby surfaces as the boosted gear reached full activation. Rapport. Key to your superiors that Ossia Argento remains protected. Any attempt to take her will fail. Raynor's expression darkened with genuine hatred. You don't command us, human. You've been lucky. Nothing more. She readied her light spears. That luck ends tonight. She launched forward with supernatural speed, weapons aimed at Issei's heart. 3 months ago, the attack would have ended him instantly. Now, enhanced by triple boost and countless training hours, Issei sidestepped with millimeters to spare, exactly as Vergil had drilled into him. Economy of movement. No wasted energy. Let the opponent overcommit. His counter came not as Raynor expected. Not a gauntleted punch or flashy technique, but a precise strike to her extended elbow joint, disrupting her balance and redirecting momentum. She stumbled forward, light spears missing their target entirely. Surprised, Issei asked, voice calm despite adrenaline flooding his system. Vergil's first lesson. Appearances deceive. The second. Exploit weakness. The name triggered visible recognition in Raynor's eyes. Vergil, who is? Her question died as Issei pressed his advantage, launching a combination attack targeting vulnerable points rather than trying to overpower her directly. Each strike connected with mathematical precision, driving Raynor backward despite her superior supernatural status. The other fallen angels recovered from their initial shock, moving to surround Issei. Light weapons formed in their hands, spears, daggers, even a whip of concentrated light wielded by a small blonde fallen who hadn't spoken. 4-to-1 odds, unfavorable even with triple boost active. Tactical assessment. Vergil's training voice echoed in Issei's mind. When outnumbered, control the engagement zone. Force opponents to interfere with each other. Issei backed toward a narrow passage between school buildings, drawing his opponents into constrained space where their numerical advantage would diminish. DxD recognized the strategy, shouting warning to his companions, but Raynor's fury overrode tactical consideration. She charged again, this time accompanied by the blonde fallen. Their coordinated attack might have overwhelmed an ordinary opponent. Light weapons approaching from multiple angles simultaneously. Issei was no longer ordinary. Explosion. The boosted gear released accumulated energy in a controlled burst. Issei's speed tripled in an instant. The world seemed to slow around him as he wove between light weapons, movements so fluid they appeared choreographed. His counterattack target. Raynor exclusively. Precise strikes to wings, joints, and weapon arm. Not attempting to kill, but to incapacitate and demoralize. The blonde fallen's whip caught his shoulder, burning through fabric to sear flesh beneath. But Issei maintained focus through the pain. Impressive improvement, DxD commented from the periphery, watching the exchange with calculating eyes. But you've reached your limit. The boosted gear drains stamina rapidly at your development level. He was right. Already Issei felt fatigue creeping in, the inevitable cost of maintaining sacred gear activation beyond normal parameters. Without Asia's healing support nearby, he couldn't sustain combat indefinitely. Time to change tactics. You're right about one thing, Issei acknowledged, disengaging from Raynor with a controlled backward leap. I am reaching my limit. He raised the boosted gear, emerald light intensifying. Which means holding back no longer makes sense. During training, Vergil had Iden to fight Issei's tendency to conserve power, a natural response to the sacred gear's draining effects. Foolishness, the half-devil had pronounced. Power unused is power wasted. When committed to combat, commit absolutely. Now, facing 4 fallen angels with diminishing reserves, Issei took that lesson to heart. Dragon shot. The technique emerged almost instinctively, knowledge rising from AIG's dormant consciousness through their strengthening connection. Concentrated energy formed before the gauntlet, then launched forward in a beam of destructive force that illuminated the entire school grounds with emerald radiance. Not aimed at any fallen angel directly, but at the ground between them. Concrete erupted skyward as the energy impacted, creating momentary chaos and separation between his opponents. In that confused moment, Issei implemented Vergil's ultimate tactical lesson. When victory is uncertain and stakes permit, strategic withdrawal preserves future opportunity. He ran, not in blind panic, but with calculated purpose, away from the school, away from the warehouse, toward areas he'd prepared with escape routes during previous patrols. Behind him, Raynor's scream of frustration pierced the night. After him. Don't let him escape. Pursuit followed immediately. The fallen angel's flight capability gave them tracking advantage, but Issei's intimate knowledge of Kuo Town's urban landscape provided countermeasure. He ducked into narrow alleys, vaulted obstacles, and utilized route combinations specifically designed to hinder aerial pursuit. Throughout the chase, one thought remained paramount: protect Asia. The fallen angel's focus on him meant they weren't targeting the warehouse. Every minute they spent pursuing him was another minute Vergil had to prepare defenses. 3 blocks from his current position, Issei had prepared an emergency extraction point, a maintenance tunnel that ran beneath the commercial district, too confined for winged pursuers to follow effectively. If he reached it, escape became probable. Raynor appeared suddenly before him, cutting off his approach. Her expression combined rage and grudging respect. Enough running, Dragon Boy, she hissed. Light spears forming in both hands. Face me directly. The boosted gear's power had nearly depleted, leaving Issei dangerously vulnerable. Yet something stirred within him. Not DxD's power, but something else. Something that resonated with the demonic energy Vergil had been infusing into him for months. As you wish, he replied, dropping into ready stance despite fatigue clawing at his limbs. Raynor attacked with renewed fury, light spears slashing in complex patterns designed to overcome defensive positioning. Issei parried with the boosted gear where possible, evaded when necessary. But a strike inevitably broke through, a light spear grazing his side, searing flesh with holy energy that burned with particular intensity due to the demonic essence now integrated into his being. Pain lanced through him, more intense than anything he'd experienced in training. The wound wasn't fatal, but it disrupted his rhythm, allowing Raynor to press her advantage. Another strike connected, then another. Issei stumbled backward, defensive capabilities rapidly diminishing. Not so confident now, are you? Raynor taunted, preparing a final, killing thrust. Your mysterious teacher should have told you fallen angels grow stronger after sunset. Night is our domain. The light spear descended toward Issei's heart, holy energy promising annihilation. In that moment of extremity, something unprecedented occurred. Blue light erupted from Issei's wounds, not blood, but energy that resembled Vergil's power manifestation. It intercepted Raynor's spear, neutrally. Zing holy energy through direct opposition. More blue light spread across Issei's body in vein-like patterns, concentrating particularly around his left arm where the boosted gear remained partially manifested. What? Raynor recoiled, recognition and fear crossing her features. That energy, it's like motivation, Issei whispered, the word emerging without conscious thought. Strength returned in a rush. Fatigue temporarily banished by the blue energy coursing through his system. He straightened, wounds still bleeding but pain suppressed by whatever power had awakened. Raynor backed away, genuine uncertainty replacing her earlier confidence. What are you? The question echoed Issei's own internal wonderings. What was he becoming? Human with sacred gear, dragon vessel, or Samet, Hing incorporating elements of Vergil's demonic nature as well. Before he could formulate response, a new voice cut through the confrontation, cold, precise, and carrying unmistakable authority. Disappointing, Issei. Engagement without tactical necessity. Precisely what I instructed against. Vergil stood atop a nearby structure, Yamato unsheathed, moonlight reflecting off the legendary blade. His expression showed neither concern for Issei's condition nor interest in the fallen angel's presence, only mild irritation at his student's disobedience. Master Vergil, Issei acknowledged, strang. Blue energy still flowing through his veins. Circumstances required adaptation. So I observe. Vergil's gaze shifted to Raynor, assessing her with clinical detachment. The fallen angel who first attacked you. Substandard combat form. Over-reliance on light-based weaponry. Tactical inflexibility. Raynor bristled at the dismissive evaluation. Who are you to judge me, outsider? I sense your power. Neither angel, devil, nor ordinary demon. Perceptive. Vergil granted with cold amusement. Yet ultimately irrelevant to your immediate concern. Which is? Raynor demanded. Light spears. Reforming in her hands despite obvious apprehension. Survival. Vergil disappeared in a blur of movement, reappearing directly behind her. Yamato remained sheathed now, though his hand rested on its hilt. Your extraction ritual. It requires specific celestial alignment, correct? Rainer whirled, wings flaring defensively. How could you possibly? The heavenly bodies you await align tomorrow night. Vergil continued as if she hadn't spoken. A convergence that occurs once every 86 years. Favorable for power transfer between vessels. The fallen angel's expression confirmed his assessment. Though she attempted to mask her reaction. What concern is that of yours? Ordinarily, none. Vergil's voice remained conversational, yet carried implicit threat. Your primitive rituals hold little interest. However, his eyes hardened to ice. You target my apprentice's sacred gear and the healer under our protection. This creates inconvenience. DxD and the other fallen angels arrived, surrounding Vergil and Issei in aerial formation. They maintained cautious distance, however, sensing the danger Vergil represented despite his outnumbered position. Lord Kokobile won't tolerate interference. DxD warned, forming a light spear larger than any Issei had previously witnessed from him. Especially from dimensional interlopers. Vergil's expression didn't change, but Issei, who had studied his master's minute reactions for months, detected genuine interest at the terminology. You recognize my origin, Vergil noted. Intriguing. Perhaps your faction posse. SSES greater insight than initially apparent. The dimensional barriers thin. The blonde fallen angel spoke for the first time, voice surprisingly melodic for a being radiating such malice. Lord Kokobile foresaw your arrival, stranger. And your potential interference. A subtle shift occurred in Vergil's posture, the barest tensing of muscles, a fractional adjustment of balance. To most observers, nothing would appear changed. But Issei recognized the transition from conversational stance to combat readiness. Issei, Vergil stated without looking away from the fallen angels, you will withdraw to headquarters immediately. Report to Asia for healing, then prepare defensive measures. I will handle this. Diplomatic exchange. Despite residual blue energy still enhancing his capabilities, Issei recognized the underlying command. Vergil was removing him from a situation about to escalate beyond his current abilities to manage. But master, now, the single word permitted no argument. Issei hesitated only momentarily before nodding. Understood. He backed away, maintaining defensive posture until reaching the nearest intersection, then turned and sprinted toward the warehouse. Behind him, energy signatures flared as confrontation evolved into combat. Fascinating, Asia murmured, healing light pulsing from her twilight healing as she treated Issei's wounds. The energy patterns within you have changed. They sat in the warehouse's designated medical area, essentially a clean corner with a single cot and supplies Asia had accumulated. Issei's combat attire lay discarded nearby. Damaged beyond immediate repair. Changed how? He asked, wincing as wholly inflicted injuries knitted closed under her ministrations. The demonic energy master Vergil has been in. Fusing you with. It's no longer separate from your natural life force. Her brow furrowed in concentration as she traced the now invisible pathways where blue light had manifested. They're integrating. Becoming something new. Issei flexed his left arm, the boosted gear dormant beneath skin. I felt different during battle. Stronger, but also, like something was awakening. The dragon, perhaps, Asia suggested. No, Issei shook his head. Ddrake's energy feels distinct, ancient, primal. This was something else. Something that resonated with Vergil's power. The warehouse door slid open before Asia could respond. Vergil entered, Yamato sheathed, appearance immaculate despite having faced 4 fallen angels moments ago. No visible injuries, no sign of exertion, not even displaced hair to suggest combat had occurred. Report, he commanded, approaching with measured steps. Issei straightened, ignoring residual pain as Asia completed her healing. Reconnaissance identified increased devil activity in southeast quadrant. Centered on Kuo Academy. Observed confrontation between Grimoire Peerage and Fallen Angel group led by Rainer. He recounted the exchange verbatim, including revelations about the extraction ritual and its timing. Vergil listened without interruption, expression revealing nothing. When Issei described the blue energy manifesting during his fight with Rainer, however, a flicker of satisfaction crossed his features. Show me, he instructed when Issei finished. I don't know how, Issei admitted. It happened instinctively, when Rainer nearly. Necessity catalyzes evolution, Vergil interrupted, drawing Yamato in a single fluid motion. Therefore, we create necessity. Before Issei could process the implication, Vergil moved, a blur of speed C. Ulminating in Yamato's blade pressing against his throat. Not breaking skin, but positioned with mathematical precision against the carotid artery. Master Vergil, Asia gasped, rising in alarm. Remain where you are, healer. Vergil commanded without looking away from Issei. This is required instruction. The blade's edge carried coldness that transcended physical sensation, dimensional energy. Capable of severing more than mere flesh. Issei remained perfectly still, heart accelerating despite months of conditioning to control fear responses. The power that manifested, Vergil stated, voice clinically detached, emerged from perceived mortal threat. Your body's survival response activated dormant potential. To reproduce the effect, Yamato's edge pressed fractionally closer, similar conditions must be established. You're going to actually cut me? Issei asked, voice steady despite his precarious position. If necessary, Vergil confirmed without hesitation. The healing girl can repair physical damage. The knowledge gained justifies temporary discomfort. Asia moved forward despite Vergil's earlier command. There must be another way. Issei-san's body is still adapting to the energy integration. Forcing manifestation could destabilize. Adaptation accelerates under pressure, Vergil countered, not taking his eyes from Issei. I sensed the energy signature during your confrontation with Rainer. It carries resonance with my own demonic nature, yet exhibits unique properties specific to your hybrid condition. Issei met his master's gaze directly. You knew this would happen. When you started infusing me with your energy. I hypothesized potential outcomes, Vergil corrected. Including dimensional compatibility between my power and your sacred gear. The hypothesis proves increasingly sound. Yamato's edge withdrew slightly, not removing threat entirely, but creating space for conversation. Vergil's expression shifted subtly, showing something rarely displayed. Genuine intellectual engagement. Consider, he continued, the dimensional implications. Your sacred gear houses a dragon from this reality's creation mythology. My power derives from Issei. Parade dimensional framework with different metaphysical underpinnings. The interaction between these distinct power sources creates unprecedented energy signatures. Like mixing elements that shouldn't normally combine, Issei suggested. Recalling high school chemistry lessons that seemed lifetimes ago. Precisely. Vergil nodded once, a rare acknowledgement of student insight. The blue energy. Manifestation represents initial integration. With proper development, it may evolve into something approaching my Devil Trigger capability. Devil Trigger. The term was unfamiliar despite months of training. Vergil lowered Yamato, apparently deciding threatening Issei's life was temporarily unnecessary for the instructional objective. A transformative state unique to certain demonic bloodlines in my dimension. It amplifies base capabilities, accelerates healing, and manifests the user's true demonic nature temporarily. The explanation carried implications that sent Issei's mind racing. If Vergil's demonic energy continued integrating with his own life force, could he potentially develop similar transformative abilities? Combined with the boosted gear's dragon power, the fallen angels recognized your energy signature. Issei recalled. They mentioned dimensional barriers thinning. And something about Kokubile foreseeing your arrival. Vergil's expression darkened fractionally. Yes, their knowledge exceeds expected parameters. The implication that Kokubile anticipated my dimensional displacement suggests variables beyond current understanding. Asia, who had been listening intently, spoke hesitantly. Could the ritual they're planning, could it be related to dimensional manipulation rather than just sacred gear extraction? Both Issei and Vergil turned toward her, the question demanding consideration. Elaborate, Vergil prompted. Well, Asia continued, gaining confidence as she organized her thoughts. Extraction rituals typically focus on separating sacred gears from hosts. But if they're specifically waiting for tomorrow night's celestial alignment, and they somehow knew about Master Vergil's arrival from another dimension, they could be attempting to exploit weakened dimensional barriers, Issei concluded, following her reasoning. Using extracted sacred gears as power sources for something larger. Vergil nodded slowly, Yamato returning Oh, its sheath as combat readiness transitioned to strategic analysis. A hypothesis worth investigating. It would explain Kokobil's direct involvement. A high-ranking fallen angel wouldn't concern himself with mere sacred gear collection. The question becomes, what is he trying to access? Issei moved toward their planning wall, examining maps of Kuo town with fresh perspective. If dimensional barriers are weakening, what's on the other side that interests him? Many possibilities, Vergil replied, joining him at the wall. None particularly favorable for this world's continued stability. The implications hung in the air between them. Whatever Kokobil planned, it clearly extended beyond mere power accumulation. Dimensional manipulation carried risks. Even Vergil, who had extensively studied such matters, approached with caution. We require additional intelligence, Vergil decided, marking locations on their map. Specifically, details of the ritual preparation within the church. Infiltration, Issei suggested. Too high risk with current information gaps. External surveillance first. Vergil turned toward Asia. Your knowledge of church architecture and ritual preparation spaces may prove valuable. Diagram the likely layout based on exterior observations from previous reconnaissance. Asia nodded, moving toward her research station with renewed purpose. The prospect of contributing beyond healing energized her noticeably. As she began sketching probable floor plans, Issei examined his left arm, site of both the boosted gear and the blue energy manifestation. Two power sources, fundamentally different in origin yet somehow compatible within him. And now, according to Asia's observation, integrating into something new. Something troubles you, Vergil noted, voice pitched for Issei's ears alone. The energy that manifested, Issei replied quietly. It felt right, natural, like it was always part of me, just waiting to be awakened. Vergil studied him with unusual intensity. Power recognizes power, across all dimensional boundaries. The demonic essence I've transferred resonates with potential already present in your being. But what does that make me? The question emerged from Issei's core uncertainty. Human, dragon vessel, partial demon, labels limit understanding, Vergil replied dismissively. You are becoming something unprecedented. Ted, a convergence point of multiple power sources. The specific terminology matters less than the capabilities such convergence enables. It was a characteristically Vergil response, pragmatic, focus. On power rather than existential implications. Yet it carried an underlying acknowledgement that Issei's transformation went beyond mere apprenticeship. He was becoming something unique in either of their worlds. Before Issei could pursue the matter further, a sound outside the warehouse caught their attention, footsteps approaching with deliberate lightness, attempting stealth yet detectable to enhanced senses. Vergil moved to the entrance, Yamato at ready position. Issei flanked him on the opposite side, boosted gear manifesting despite his earlier exertion. Asia continued working, protected behind their defensive positioning. The footsteps stopped directly outside. A gentle knock followed, 3 precise taps against metal. Vergil nodded to Issei, who called out, "Identify yourself." My, a feminine voice responded, amusement evident in its melodic cadence. Such formal security protocols for an abandoned warehouse. Issei recognized the voice immediately. Akano Himahima. Correct, Dragon-kun. Her tone carried playful approval. I come alone, bearing information you might find valuable regarding tomorrow night's activities at the church. Vergil and Issei exchanged glances. The timing was suspicious, too convenient following their confrontation with the fallen angels. Yet potentially valuable intelligence couldn't be casually dismissed. Your affiliation is with Grimoire, Vergil stated through the door. Why offer information independently? Because, Akano replied, voice dropping to more serious register, certain matters transcend house allegiances. Dimensional stability concerns all factions equally. The reference to dimensional concerns, precisely what they'd been discussing, tipped the balance. Vergil nodded once, and Issei unlocked the reinforced door, sliding it open enough to reveal their visitor. Akano Himahima stood alone as promised, wearing Kuo Academy's uniform despite the late hour. Her long black hair fell in a ponytail that emphasized elegant features and striking violet eyes. She carried no visible weapons, though power hummed beneath her composed exterior, significant magical capacity carefully contained. Good evening, Shish, E greeted with a formal bow that somehow managed to seem both respectful and slightly teasing. Thank you for agreeing to hear me out. We haven't agreed to anything yet, Issei responded, boosted gear still manifested as precaution. State your purpose. Akino's eyes widened fractionally at his directness, so different from the perverted schoolboy she would have researched in Rias's background investigations. Her gaze traveled from the sacred gear to the healed wounds visible where his shirt remained unbuttoned, lingering particularly on faint blue tracery still visible beneath his skin. Fascinating, she murmured. The integration progresses more rapidly than expected. Her attention shifted to Vergil, studying him with newfound appreciation. Your work, I presume. Quite the accomplishment, considering dimensional incompatibility factors. Vergil's expression remained impassive. Your knowledge exceeds standard devil parameters. Explain. Akino smiled. Not the teasing expression from earlier. But something more complex. I am not merely devil, Vergil-san. My heritage is complicated. Her eyes flashed with momentary emotion. Half-fallen angel, to be precise. Which gives M.E. particular insight into current events. The revelation explained much. Her interest in the confrontation, her independent approach, perhaps even her attention toward Issei, who now harbored multiple supernatural essences himself. Come inside, Vergil decided, stepping aside. Information exchange may prove mutually beneficial. As Akino crossed the threshold, her gaze met Issei's directly. Omething passed between them, recognition, perhaps, of shared complexity. Of existing between clear categories. I watched your battle with Rainer, she commented as the door closed behind her. Impressive combat discipline for someone so recently awakened to power. I had proper motivation, Issei replied, unconsciously echoing Vergil's philosophy. Akino's smile deepened with genuine amusement. Indeed, fear and necessity, powerful teachers. Her attention shifted toward Asia, who had paused in her diagramming to observe the newcomer. And this must be the healer Rainer seeks. Asia Argento, yes. Asia nodded cautiously. Yes, you're Rias Grimori's queen. Among other things, Akino acknowledged with elegant incline of her head. But tonight I come in more personal capacity. She turned back toward Vergil and Issei. Expression growing serious. What I'm about to share goes against my king's current directives. However, recent intelligence suggests immediate action may be necessary to prevent catastrophic outcomes. Quote, she produced a folded paper from within her uniform jacket, unfolding it to reveal complex magical diagrams annotated with ancient script. Kokobeel's ritual, she explained. Spreading the paper on their planning table. It's not merely sacred gear extraction. It's dimensional gate construction. Vergil's interest visibly intensified, cold calculation replacing his previous guardedness. Explain. The fallen angel hierarchy has been researching dimensional barriers for centuries, Akino continued, indicating specific elements in the diagram. Kokob-IEL leads their most aggressive faction, those who believe accessing alternate realities could provide power sources to restart the Great War. Restart the war, Issei echoed, recalling Vergil's briefings on this world's supernatural history. Between angels, devils, and fallen angels. The one that nearly destroyed all factions. Akino nodded grimly. Exactly. Most leaders recognize continued conflict would ensure mutual destruction. But Kokobeel, he's never accepted the stalemate. He believes with sufficient power advantage, fallen angels could achieve total victory. And he believes this advantage lies in another dimension. Vergil concluded, studying the diagrams with expert comprehension. My dimension, specifically. Yes. Akino's gaze fixed on the half-demon with new intensity. Your arrival was no accident. Vergil-san, Kokobeel has been systematically weakening dimensional barriers around Kuo town for months. Your displacement was deliberately engineered, a test run for larger breaches. The revelation landed with seismic impact. Vergil's expression hardened to something beyond mere coldness, a controlled fury that lowered the ambient temperature perceptibly. I was manipulated. The question emerged with dangerous softness. Directed, perhaps, Akino corrected carefully. Your own actions brought you close to dimensional boundaries. Kokobeel merely created favorable conditions for specific outcomes. Issei watched his master carefully, recognizing barely controlled rage beneath the composed exterior. Vergil valued control above all things, particularly control over his own destiny. The suggestion that fallen angel manipulation had influenced his dimensional displacement struck directly at this core value. The extraction ritual tomorrow night, Issei redirected, giving Vergil space to process this new information. How does it connect to dimensional manipulation? Akeno seemed to appreciate his tactical conversation shift. Sacred gears contain enormous power concentrations. Extracting multiple gears simultaneously during celestial alignment would provide the energy required to tear a permanent gateway between dimensions. Which explains their continued interest in Asia and myself, Issei noted. Two powerful sacred gears as primary energy sources. Precisely. Akeno's violet eyes showed genuine concern. But Kokobile doesn't understand what he's tampering with. Dimensional barriers exist for fundamental reasons. Destabilizing them could have catastrophic consequences for both realities. Master Vergil, Asia spoke up hesitantly, this diagram. The configuration resembles the energy pattern that manifested in Issei-san earlier. All eyes turned toward her, then to the diagram, then to Issei, specifically his left arm, where faint blue tracery remained visible beneath skin. The girl is perceptive, Vergil acknowledged, cold fury temporarily redirected toward analytical consideration. The pattern similarity suggests Kokobile's research has yielded partial understanding of dimensional energy principles. But incomplete understanding, Issei added, studying his arm with new perspective. Whatever happened to me tonight was unintended, a side effect of your power integrating with my sacred gear. A fortuitous accident, Vergil mused, that may provide counter-strategy options. Akeno watched this exchange with evident fascination. You've created something unexpected, she observed. Something Kokobile's calculations wouldn't account for. Perhaps. Vergil turned toward her with renewed intensity. This information exchange has been productive. However, your motivation remains unclear. Why risk Grimori's displeasure by approaching us directly? Akeno's composed exterior briefly faltered, revealing something more vulnerable beneath. Because I understand the danger better than most. Half fallen angel, half human, I exist between worlds already. Her gaze shifted to Issei. Like you're becoming, Dragon-kun. Neither purely one thing nor another. The personal admission carried weight beyond tactical considerations. Issei felt unexpected connection with this devil-fallen hybrid who navigate. Ted complex identity in a world of rigid supernatural categories. Rias plans to intervene tomorrow night, Akeno continued, composure restored. But her approach prioritizes territorial defense and devil interests. She doesn't fully grasp the dimensional implications. While you do, Vergil's question carried skepticism. Better than most, Akeno replied without false modesty. My unique TAGE includes sensitivity to certain energy frequencies. I felt the barriers weakening months before anyone else noticed. Her expression softened momentarily. It's why I recognized what's happening within Issei-kun immediately. The integration patterns are familiar to my perception. Issei absorbed this information, studying Akeno with new appreciation. Not merely a powerful devil, but Somio. Nay, with personal understanding of his emerging condition. Someone who might provide insight Vergil, for all his knowledge, couldn't offer from experience. Tomorrow night's ritual requires coordination between multiple fallen angels. Akeno continued, refocusing on tactical matters. Raynor leads the extraction team targeting Ossia Argento specifically. Donasik has been assigned to secure Adadio. Null sacred gear users throughout Kuo town. The church itself will be heavily guarded during preparation phases. Direct assault would be inefficient, Vergil observed, already analyzing approach vectors on their map. Multiple hostiles, defensively positioned, with ritual components requiring precise interruption. I concur, Akeno replied, surprising Issei with her immediate alignment with Vergil's tactical thinking. Which is why I propose a coordinated operation. Your three-person team focuses on extracting Asia-san from immediate danger while preventing Raynor's faction from securing additional sacred gear users. Meanwhile, I position myself to disrupt the ritual's core components at the critical moment. Vergil studied her with new calculation. You suggest alliance, temporary cooperation toward mutual objectives. Akeno clarified with diplomatic precision. Rias need not know until afterwards. By then, results will justify methods. The proposal hung between them, Pragum. Attic yet requiring trust neither side had established grounds for. Vergil, particularly, operated with inherent suspicion toward all potential allies. To everyone's surprise, Asia spoke first. "I think we should accept Akeno-san's help," she stated quietly but firmly. "This isn't just about me anymore. If Kokubile succeeds in creating a dimensional gate, countless people will suffer." Her moral clarity cut through tactical complexities, reminding them of fundamental stakes beyond power calculations and supernatural politics. Issei nodded agreement. "Asia's right. And practically speaking, insider knowledge of devil movements tomorrow night gives a strategic advantage." Vergil remained silent, weighing options with characteristic thoroughness. Finally, he reached decision. "Conditional cooperation," he stated precisely. "Information sharing continues. Operational parameters remain adaptable. Final decision authority regarding my apprentice's deployment remains exclusively mine." Akeno accepted these terms with a respectful bow that somehow still managed to convey amusement. "Agreed, Vergil-san." Her gaze shifted to Issei, something warm and curious in her expression. "We have much preparation to complete before tomorrow night. Perhaps we should begin immediately." The invitation carried undertones beyond tactical planning, genuine interest in Issei himself, in what he was becoming under Vergil's tutelage. Interest that stirred something in Issei that months of brutal training had suppressed but not eliminated, awareness of feminine attention from someone extraordinarily beautiful. He began, then caught himself, focusing on immediate priorities. "Yes, let's review the church layout first." Asia's been mapping probable configurations based on external observations. As they moved toward the planning table, Issei noticed Akeno studying him with approving interest, not merely his power development, but his growth from the boy she would have researched in school records. Her proximity as they examined Asia's diagrams brought subtle floral scent, something elegant yet with spicy undertones that matched her complex nature. Vergil observed this interaction with detached assessment, noting his apprentice's momentary distraction but apparently deciding it warranted no immediate correction. The greater objective, countering Kokubile's dimensional manipulation, temporarily outweighed strict training protocols. Through the warehouse's high windows, night deepened toward midnight. Throughout Kuo town, supernatural factions prepared for confrontation. At the abandoned church on the hill, fallen angels arranged ritual components with methodical purpose. And within Issei, blue energy continued integrating with his natural life force, creating something unprecedented in either Vergil's world or his own. Tomorrow night would bring convergence on multiple levels, factions, dimensions, and powers long separated by metaphysical boundaries. Whatever emerged from that convergence would reshape futures across realities. The storm, as Vergil might say, was approaching. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, Dimensional Ripples. Dawn broke over Kuo town with unnatural radiance. Crimson streaked across the eastern sky like fresh wounds, while aurora-like phenomena, wholly inappropriate for this latitude, danced above buildings. Ordinary citizens paused on their morning commutes. Phones raised to capture the strange spectacle, attributing it to unusual atmospheric conditions rather than its true cause. Dimensional barriers stretched to breaking point. From atop Kuo Academy's clock tower, Issei observed both the celestial display and the human reactions below. 12 hours had passed since the confrontation at the abandoned church, 12 hours of chaos, revelation, and irrevocable change. The extraction ritual had been stopped, but at significant cost. The church itself now stood as a blackened skeleton against the hill's verdant backdrop, structural supports twisting toward the sky like accusatory fingers. Dimensional energies had scorched reality itself around the building, leaving a perfect circle where grass refused to settle into a single color, shifting instead through spectral variations as if unable to decide which universe's rules to follow. Issei's hand unconsciously moved to his chest, where fresh scars marked Rainer's final, desperate attack. Not even Asia's twilight healing could completely erase injuries inflicted by light weapons wielded with such hatred. The physical pain had faded, but the memory remained visceral. Rainer's face contorting with rage and disbelief as Issei and Vergil had systematically dismantled Kokubile's carefully orchestrated ritual. Contemplating your victory, Issei turned to find Akeno approaching along the rooftop edge, moving with preternatural balance. Her Kuo Academy uniform had been replaced by a shrine maiden's attire, white haori and red hakama that emphasized her traditional Japan. Say beauty while hinting at spiritual authority. Not victory, Issei corrected, returning his gaze to the wounded sky. Interruption, at best. Kokubile escaped. True, Akano acknowledged, stopping beside him. But you saved Asia-chan. Prevented multiple sacred gear extractions, and disrupted a dimensional gate that would have destabilized two realities. A small smile curved her lips. Most would consider that reasonably successful for a night's work. Vergil doesn't. Akano laughed softly, a sound both melodic and slightly dangerous, like wind chimes in a thunderstorm. Your master has exacting standards. She studied him with those striking violet eyes. Yet you've flourished under his tutelage. What you did last night, that technique with the blue energy, it shouldn't have been possible for someone at your development stage. Issei flexed his left hand, recalling the moment when desperation had fused boosted gear's power with Vergil's demonic energy flowing through his veins. The resulting attack had shattered Rainer's ultimate defense and collapsed half the church's structure. I'm still not entirely sure how I did it, he admitted. It felt instinctive, like something awakening inside me. The convergence accelerates, Akano observed, using terminology that had become common between them during the previous night's battle. Your human nature, the dragon power, and now Vergil's demonic energy, they're integrating faster than anyone anticipated. The aurora overhead pulsed in response to her words, as if the dimensional disturbance itself acknowledged this truth. Citizens below pointed skyward, expressions mixing wonder and unease. They don't understand what they're seeing, Issei noted, watching humans continue their morning routines beneath cosmic warning signs. Would understanding help? Akano countered gently. Knowledge that multiple realities press against their own, that beings of incomprehensible power vie for dominance across dimensional boundaries. She shook her head. Sometimes ignorance truly is mercy. Issei considered this perspective, so different from Vergil's philosophy that knowledge and power were invariably superior to comfortable illusion. Yet he couldn't deny Akano's point. What would ordinary humans do with the truth? What could they do? The Occult Research Club will handle official explanations, Akano continued, gesturing toward the damaged church. Gas leak, structural failure, the usual cover stories, and the aurora, Issei asked, indicating the atmospheric impossibility above. Rare meteorological phenomenon. Social media is already constructing that narrative without our intervention. She smiled slightly. Humans are remarkably adept at normalizing the extraordinary. Morning wind stirred Akano's long hair, carrying her subtle scent, orchid and ozone, feminine grace underlaid with raw elemental power. During last night's battle, Issei had witnessed that power unleashed, Akano's mastery of Li. Ghtning magic proving decisive against several fallen angel opponents. Now, standing together in daylight, it felt strange to recall her wrapped in crackling electricity, expression transformed by bat. TLE lust to something both terrifying and magnificent. You're staring, Issei-kun, she observed with evident amusement. Heat rushed to his face, a remarkably ordinary reaction amid the extraordinary circumstances. Sorry, I was remembering how you fought last night. Your lightning techniques were impressive. Only impressive. She raised one elegant eyebrow, smile turning playfully dangerous. I was hoping for awe-inspiring, or at minimum, devastatingly effective. Despite himself, Issei laughed, a genuine sound that surprised him with its ease. How long since he'd laughed naturally? Vergil's training regime hardly encouraged levity. Devastatingly effective, then, he amended. Particularly against Danesik. I don't think he expected a devil to channel holy lightning. Somethi. Ing flashed across Akano's expression, complex emotion quickly masked by practiced composure. My unique heritage occasionally proves advantageous. Opponents expect consistent categories. Devil, angel, human. Her gaze intensified, just as your enemies now struggle to categorize what you're becoming. Before Issei could respond, his phone vibrated with incoming message, the specialized device Vergil had acquired to coordinate their operations. The text displayed was characteristic in its brevity. Return immediately. Developments require attention. Duty calls. Akano inquired, reading Hi's reaction rather than the message itself. Issei nodded, already calculating fastest route back to their headquarters. Vergil's monitoring dimensional frequencies. If he's detected something worth interrupting my observation shift. It's significant, Akino finished, understanding immediate. I should return to Rias as well. She'll want updated assessment of the barrier degradation. They stood momentarily suspended between action and departure, something unspoken hanging between them, connection forged through shared battle and mutual recognition of existing between traditional categories. Neither purely one thing nor another. Akino, Issei began, uncertain how to frame his question. Last night, when I channeled that combined power. You said you recognized it. That it felt familiar to your perception. She studied him, violet eyes suddenly serious. Yes. What did you mean, exactly? Akino considered him for several heartbeats, weighing disclosure against reservation. When fallen angel and devil powers intermingle in my own body, she finally explained, they create resonance patterns that ordinary supernatural entities can't perceive. A third energy signature, neither purely one component nor the other. Her gaze dropped to his left arm, where the boosted gear lay dormant beneath skin. What's happening inside you follows similar principles, though with far greater magnitude and complexity. Human, dragon, and now, devil. I'm not becoming a devil, Issei corrected automatically, echoing Vergil's precise definitions. The energy is demonic, but specifically of Vergil's dimension, which operates under different metaphysical classifications and categories. Akino interrupted gently, mean less than the experience itself. Whatever terminology you prefer, you're walking between worlds, Issei-kun. Something vulnerable and genuine emerged in her expression. It can be isolating to exist between established boundaries. The admission ca. Read personal weight that transcended tactical alliance or supernatural politics. For a moment, Issei glimpsed the person beneath the composed devil queen exterior, someone who understood marginalization from multiple directions. Maybe, he suggested carefully, those between boundaries can understand each other in ways others can't. Akino's smile returned, warming with genuine emotion. Perhaps so. She stepped back, preparing to depart. Until our paths cross again, Dragon-kun. Crimson transportation circle formed beneath her feet, magic already initiating teleportation. In the moment before she vanished, Akino added with characteristic playfulness, which I suspect will be sooner rather than later. Light flashed, leaving Issei alone atop the clock tower. The aurora overhead pulls, ed in emerald and azure patterns as reality itself continued stretching beyond intended parameters. Whatever Vergil had detected, it likely connected to the accelerating dimensional disturbances. With practiced efficiency, Issei plotted route back to headquarters, then launched himself from the clock tower in a controlled descent that would have been impossible 3 months earlier. As he moved across Kuo Town's rooftops, the lingering scent of orchid and ozone accompanied him, along with the memory of violet eyes that understood existing between worlds. The warehouse that had served as their base for months had undergone significant transformation overnight. Vergil, typically minimalist in his approach to environment, had reorganized the entire space around new priorities. Maps and tactical planning materials remained, but now sharing wall space with complex diagrams depicting dimensional frequencies, barrier structures, and energy convergence patterns. In the center of the main floor, Vergil had established what could only be described as a dimensional monitoring station. Equipment of indeterminate origin, some pieces appearing distinctly otherworldly, formed concentric CIR. Clees around a central platform where Yamato rested in its sheath, blade occasionally pulsing with subtle blue luminescence. Vergil himself stood motionless beside this arrangement, eyes closed in deep concentration. He didn't acknowledge Issei's arrival, though certainly aware of it. Asia sat nearby at her research station, expression reflecting worried concentration as she compared ancient texts with real-time readings from monitoring equipment. What happened? Issei asked without preamble, approaching the central platform. Dimensional incursion, Vergil replied, eyes remaining closed. 17 minutes ago. Southeastern quadrant. Signature pattern distinct from previous fluctuations. Another being crossed over. Like you did. Similar transit mechanics. Different energy classification. Vergil opened his eyes, focusing on Issei with characteristic intensity. The barriers weaken progressively. Kokobeel's ritual, though interrupted, accelerated degradation beyond self-repair thresholds. The implications settled heavily. Last night's victory had prevented immediate catastrophe but hadn't resolved the underlying problem. Dimensional boundaries stretched to breaking point. I've been monitoring energy fluctuations across town, Issei added, turning her research tablet to display multicolored patterns. They're increasing in frequency and intensity. This morning's aura is just the most visible manifestation. Issei studied the data, recognizing correlation with his own internal experiences. The blue energy that had manifested during battle with Raynor now flowed continuously beneath his skin in subtle pathways, occasionally visible when emotion or exertion intensified his power signature. The incursion location, he prompted, returning to immediate concerns. Coordinates. Kuo Central Park, Vergil replied. Initial energy displacement followed by movement toward Commercial District. His expression remained impassive, but Issei had learned to recognize subtle indicators of his master's emotional state. In this case, intensified focus suggesting genuine concern. The signature contains familiar elements. Familiar how? Demonic resonance P. A turns consistent with my dimensional origin. Vergil's hand moved to Yamato's hilt, fingers resting there with deceptive casualness. Yet not identical to any specific entity I recognize. Issei absorbed this information, calculating implications. Someone from your world, but not someone you know personally. Correct. Vergil turned toward their equipment array. Additional anomalies manifest throughout the town. Lesser incursions. Demonic entities of minimal individual threat but concerning in aggregate. Like the demons in your world. Issei recalled Vergil's sparse descriptions of high S-dimensions supernatural ecosystem, lesser demons forming the baseline of an elaborate power hierarchy. Similar in classification, different in composition. Vergil adjusted a monitoring device, revealing scattered energy signatures across Kuo Town's map. They adapt to this reality's metaphysical parameters, integrating local supernatural energy into their manifestation. Asia looked up from her research, concern evident. Could they harm ordinary humans? Inevitably, Vergil confirmed without emotional inflection. Their nature compels predation on life force. Without intervention, civilian casualties become statistically certain. The statement's clinical detachment might have once disturbed Issei. Now, he recognized it as Vergil's methodology, addressing reality without emotion. Distortion that might impair tactical response. Intervention priorities, Issei asked, already moving toward his equipment storage. Primary objective. Locate and assess the dimensional traveler. Vergil straightened, Yamato shifting to ready position at his hip. Secondary. Contain lesser demonic entities to minimize civilian exposure. Tertiary. Gather intelligence regarding barrier degradation. Ion patterns for counter-strategy development. Standard Vergil. Precise mission parameters arranged in logical priority sequence. Issei had grown to appreciate this structured approach, so different from his previous haphazard existence. I'll handle primary objective, Vergil continued. Your capabilities are better suited for containment operations against multiple lesser threats. Issei nodded, retrieving specialized equipment developed during their months of training, reinforced combat attire, communication devices, and weapons designed to function alongside sacred gear abilities. Though the boosted gear remained his primary offensive capability, Vergil had insisted on contingency options for situations where power conservation or tactical variety proved necessary. Asia remains at headquarters, Vergil added, continuing research while maintaining central communications coordination. I've established monitoring algorithms, Asia confirmed, indicating her workstation. They'll alert us to significant energy fluctuations or pattern changes. As Issei completed preparation, securing final equipment components, unexpected vibration pulsed through the warehouse, not physical tremor, but something more fundamental. Reality itself seemed to shudder, colors briefly desaturating before returning to normal. Monitoring equipment responded with synchronized alarm tones. Dimensional harmonic disruption, Vergil identified immediately, moving to central platform where Yamato's blade now glowed with steady azure light. Barrier integrity decreasing exponentially. Time estimate, Issei asked, recognizing crisis acceleration. Uncertain. Hours, not days. Vergil's expression hardened with rare visible concern. We proceed immediately. Communication Protocol Alpha, Conv. Argent's point established at coordinates 35.7 degrees north, 139.7 degrees east if separation occurs. Issei committed the coordinates to memory, a predetermined location in Tokyo's governmental district where they would wreck. Onnect if circumstances forced operational division. The protocol itself indicated Vergil's assessment of situation severity, alpha designation reserved for highest threat categories. Understood, Issei confirmed, boosted gear materializing along his left arm as determination solidified within him. Whatever crossed between dimensions, whatever threat it represented, would find Kuo Town defended. Vergil nodded once, then simply vanished. Not teleportation in the conventional supernatural sense, but movement so rapid it approximated instantaneous transition. The technique remained beyond Issei's capabilities despite months of training, though Vergil insisted eventual mastery was possible given continued development. "Be careful, Issei-san," Asia called as he moved toward exit. He paused, turning back to offer reassurance. "Always keep monitoring frequencies and alert as to any major changes." "I will." Her expression carried worry mixed with determination. "But Issei-san, the energy patterns. They're forming correlation matrices I've never seen before. Whatever's happening to the dimensional barriers, it's not following any documented precedent." "Which means, we're in uncharted territory," she answered simply. "All of us." The assessment hung between them, straightforward yet profound in its implications. Whatever rules had previously governed supernatural interactions now yielded to new paradigms as realities pressed against each other with increasing pressure. Issei nodded acknowledgement, then departed into morning sunlight that somehow felt less substantial than it had hours earlier, as if reality itself was becoming diluted by contact with neighboring dimensions. Kuo Central Park sprawled across 12 hectares of carefully landscaped greenery, artificial lakes, and recreational facilities. On ordinary days, it provided peaceful refuge from urban density. Today, it had become ground zero for dimensional disruption. From concealed observation position atop a maintenance building, Issei surveyed the park's central plaza, site of the incursion Vergil had detected. Visual distortion rippled across the area like heat haze, though morning temperatures remained mild. Within this distortion, colors shifted subtly, greens too vibrant, blues edging toward ultraviolet frequencies human eyes shouldn't perceive. More concerning than visual anomalies were structural deformations affecting solid matter. Concrete pathways buckled in geometric patterns resembling circuit boards. Metal benches twisted into shapes suggesting non-Euclidean geometry. A decorative fountain at Plaza Center now cycled water through impossible loops, liquid occasionally flowing upward against gravity before returning to conventional physical behavior. Most park visitors had vacated the area, instinctive unease driving them toward normalcy even without conscious understanding of what they witnessed. Those remaining kept distance from central disturbance, phones said to document phenomena they attributed to elaborate public art installation or environmental protest statement. Issei maintained observation position, scanning methodically for the dimensional traveler Vergil had detected. Initial monitoring had tracked movement toward commercial district, but energy fluctuations suggested possible return to incursion point, a common pattern when dimensional travelers sought to understand their location. The boosted gear remained partially materialized along his forearm, ready for immediate full activation but conserving energy during reconnaissance phase. 3 months of rigorous training had taught Issei to balance power expenditure against tactical needs, a lesson Vergil had literally beaten into him through countless sparring sessions. Movement at Plaza Periphery caught his attention, a figure emerging from distortion field with cautious, measured steps. Female form, approximately Issei's age in appearance, with striking red haircut in practical style. Her clothing resembled combat attire, though design elements appeared distinctly foreign to Japanese aesthetic, reinforced leather with articulated joints allowing maximum mobility while providing strategic protection. Most revealing, however, was her movement pattern, balanced, precise, constantly adjusting to maintain optimal defensive positioning. Not ordinary civilian behavior, not even standard supernatural entity protocol. This was trained combat discipline of exceptional caliber. The woman paused, scanning environment with methodical thoroughness that reminded Issei of Vergil's situational assessment techniques. When her gaze swept past his observation point, he registered something extraordinary. Her eyes briefly flashed with inhuman luminescence, suggesting supernatural nature despite human appearance. Decision time. Maintain observation or initiate contact. Vergil would advocate continued surveillance until complete threat assessment could be established. But circumstantial evidence suggested this visitor might provide valuable intelligence regarding dimensional disruptions, possibly even alliance opportunity against emerging threats. Issei chose middle approach, revealing presence while maintaining tactical advantage. He activated communication device, alerting Asia to developments. Target located Central Park. Female. Combat trained, likely supernatural origin. Initiating contact under Protocol Gamma. Asia's response came immediately. Understood. Alerting Master Vergil. Energy readings from your location show unusual stability pattern, possible dimensional anchor point forming. Interesting. The woman's presence somehow stabilized local reality distortions. Definitely worth investigation. Issei descended from observation point with controlled movement, allowing his presence to register without appearing threatening. The woman detected him immediately, shifting to combat readiness with impressive reaction speed. I mean no harm, Issei called in Japanese, stopping at respectful distance. When no recognition flashed in her expression, he switched to English. I'm not your enemy. The woman relaxed fractionally, though maintaining ready stance. You speak my language, she replied, accent unfamiliar yet words clearly formed. Are you native to this world? Direct confirmation of extra-dimensional origin. Issei nodded, keeping movements deliberate and non-threatening. Yes, my name is Issei Hyodo. You've crossed dimensional boundaries into our reality. Evidently, her response carried dry acknowledgement of the obvious. Though not by choice, I was pursuing demonic entities when reality shifted. She studied him with renewed intensity. You're human, yet carry power signature unlike anything I've encountered. Dragon essence, but something else too. Her perception abilities exceeded expectation. Issei allowed the boosted gear to fully materialize, demonstrating transparency rather than concealment. Sacred gear, artifact bound to my soul. The dragon aspect you sense is DxD, one of the heavenly dragons in our world's mythology. Recognition flashed across her features. Dragons exist in your dimension as independent entities. Fascinating diversification of supernatural taxonomy. Her scientific terminology and analytical approach suggested sophisticated understanding of metaphysical principles, not merely a dimensional traveler, but one with specific knowledge relevant to their situation. May I ask your name? Issei prompted, maintaining respectful distance. She hesitated briefly, weighing disclosure against caution. Then apparently decided cooperation offered greatest advantage. Lucia, she replied, was, a demon hunter in my world. The term registered with immediate significance. Demon hunter, potentially connected to Vergil's dimensional origin, given his occasional references to devil hunters in his reality. Further confirmation came as she continued. I served under the legendary devil hunter Dante before pursuing independent operations. Dante. The name Vergil had mentioned exactly once during training, his twin brother, referenced during rare moment of personal disclosure while explaining specific sword technique. The connection couldn't be coincidence. You know Dante, Issei stated rather than asked. Do you also know Vergil? Lucia's reaction was immediate and profound, body tensing, eyes widening with recognition and wariness. Vergil, son of Sparta, the Dark Slayer, each title carried increasing concern. How do you know that name? He's here, Issei replied simply. In this dimension. Has been for months. He's been training me. Disbelief crossed her features, followed by calculation as she processed implications. Vergil is alive, and in this dimension. Her hand moved subtly toward concealed weapon. That's concerning. He's my master, Issei clarified, noting her defensive posture shift. And currently investigating dimensional disruptions affecting our world. Including your arrival. Your master, she repeated, skepticism evident. Vergil doesn't take apprentices. He seeks power, not disciples. Circumstances created mutual advantage, Issei explained, offering simplified version of their arrangement. He needed certain capabilities I possessed to facilitate eventual dimensional return. I needed training to survive supernatural threats. Lucia studied him with renewed assessment, apparently re-evaluating initial impressions. "Show me," she finally requested. "This power is helping you develop." Fair request under circumstances. Issei activated the boosted gear's basic function. Boost. The mechanical voice echoed as power doubled within him, emerald light pulsing from the jewel embedded in the dragon scale gauntlet. Simultaneously, blue energy pathways became visible beneath his skin. Vergil's demonic essence integrated with his natural life force, now responding automatically to power activation. Lucia's eyes widened at the display. Devil trigger compatibility in a human vessel. Impossible. She circled him slowly, studying the energy pattern with expert assessment. Yet the resonance signatures are unmistakable. He's infusing you with his own demonic power. Creating hybrid capabilities, Issei confirmed. Though we're still exploring potential applications and limitations. Dangerous, she noted with professional detachment. Human physiology isn't designed to channel devil energy at that magnitude. The strain should be. She trailed off, reassessing as she completed her circuit around him. But you're not entirely human anymore, are you? The dragon essence provides buffer capacity. And something else. This world's metaphysical structure permits combinations our dimension would reject. Her analysis aligned with Asia's research findings and Vergil's theoretical framework. The sacred gear system, designed to grant humans access to supernatural power, created foundation for demonic energy integration that wouldn't be possible in Vergil's original dimension. Before Issei could respond, communication device activated with Asia's urgent update. Issei-san, multiple demonic incursions detected 2 kilometers from your position. Commercial district. Civilian presence significant. Master Vergil requests immediate response while he continues primary investigation. Duty called. Issei acknowledged the alert, then addressed Lucia. Demonic entities are crossing dimensional boundaries throughout Kuo town. Civilians are threatened. I need to respond. Rather than questioning or objecting, Lucia simply nodded, the immediate understanding of one professional recognizing another's responsibilities. I'll accompany you. Demon hunting is my specialty, after all. She product. Dual curved daggers that seem to materialize from hidden sheaths. And I need to understand this dimension's particular manifestations. The offer made tactical sense. Lucia clearly possessed MBAT experience specifically relevant to emerging threats. Vergil might prefer isolated operation, but practicality demanded accepting advantageous alliance opportunity. Appreciated, Issei replied, already calculating fastest route to commercial district. Follow me. I'll brief you on local supernatural factions and critical contextual information en route. They departed Central Park together, leaving dimensional distortions continuing their slow propagation across reality's fabric. Above them, morning aurora intensified, borders between worlds thinning with each passing hour. Kuo On's main shopping district transformed on weekend mornings from sleepy commercial area to bustling social center. Today, that transformation included unexpected additions, creatures that definitely didn't belong in conventional reality. From rooftop observation point, Issei and Lucia surveyed the situation. Below, scattered among weekend shoppers, approximately 24 entities moved with predatory purpose. To ordinary human perception, they appeared as strangely dressed individuals with unusual movement patterns, odd but not immediately threatening. Supernatural sight revealed their true nature. Demonic entities with insectoid characteristics, exoskeletons gleaming beneath human-seeming glamour. Impusa, Lucia identified immediately. Lesser demons, but dangerous in numbers. They feed on human blood and life essence. She studied their movement patterns with professional assessment. Their manifestation is incomplete, adapted to this dimension's metaphysical parameters, but unstable. The glamour concealing their true appearance from ordinary humans will fail progressively. Evacuation priority, Issei concluded, already calculating approach vectors. Then containment and elimination. Lucia nodded approval at his assessment. Direct confrontation in crowded environment risks civilian casualties. We need controlled engagement zones. Agreed. Issei activated communication device. Asia. Alert local authorities to implement evacuation protocol 7. Suspicious individuals. Potential toxic substance exposure. Non-specific threat. The coded message would trigger PR. Determined response from authorities who regularly dealt with supernatural aftermath. Evacuation without panic, creating necessary operational space without exposing ordinary citizens to reality-breaking truth. Response units mobilizing. Asia confirmed moments later. Estimated clearance time 12 minutes. Devil factions also alerted to situation. 12 minutes before civilian evacuation. C. Amplitude. Time they needed to prevent demonic entities from dispersing throughout the district. Issei formulated rapid tactical plan, integrating Lucia's specialist knowledge with local environmental factors. We need to contain them within the main plaza, he decided, indicating central shopping area. Prevent dispersal while evacuation proceeds. Agreed. Lucia readied her curved daggers, Weepo. NS Issei now recognized as similar to those Vergil had described from his world. Impusa respond to blood scent and energy signatures. We can draw them toward us while civilians evacuate. I'll take North Quadrant, Issei designated. You take South. Coordinated Containment Pattern Alpha. The tactical terminology meant nothing to Lucia, but the concept translated regardless, professional recon. Eising professional despite different training methodologies. She nodded, then launched herself from rooftop with acrobatic precision that confirmed exceptional combat experience. Issei activated the boosted gear fully. Emerald light pulsing as power accumulated. Rather than immediately boosting, however, he implemented specialized technique developed during training, controlled energy emission de. Chi would attract supernatural entities while remaining below threshold that might trigger premature engagement. Resonance pattern active. The gear's mechanical voice confirmed technique activation. Green energy pulsed in specific frequency designed to attract demonic entities while remaining undetectable to ordinary human perception. Below, several Impusa immediately responded, heads turning toe. Issei's position with synchronized movement. Civilians continued ordinary shopping activities, unaware of predators moving among them. Police vehicles appeared at district perimeter, officers begged, inning systematic evacuation under pretense of gas leak detection. The devils Issei had expected remained conspicuously absent, likely observing from distance rather than directly engaging situation outside their jurisdiction. First Impusa broke from general grouping, moving toward Issei's energy signature with predatory focus. Its glamour flickered momentarily, revealing chitinous exoskeleton and multiple limbs beneath human-seeming exterior. Ordinary shoppers unconsciously created distance around the entity, instinctive unease registering despite conscious perception filtering. Across the plaza, Lucia implemented similar attraction technique, though her method involved direct demonic energy manipulation rather than sacred gear mechanics. Several southern quadrant Impusa responded immediately, changing direction toward her position with hungry intent. Containment phase proceeding as planned. Now for controlled engagement to prevent casualties during evacuation. Issei dropped from rooftop to street level, landing in controlled crouch that dispersed impact force through specially designed boots. The maneuver, impossible for ordinary humans, immediately attracted attention from nearby Impusa, who recognized supernatural movement pattern. Come then, Issei invited quietly, backing toward predetermined engagement zone, a construction area cordoned off from public access, providing combat space with minimal civilian exposure risk. The demons followed, glamours flickering more prominently as excitement overcame their dimensional adaptation. To remaining humans in the area, they would appear increasingly strange. Jerky movements, occasional visual distortion, but evacuation procedures were clearing civilians efficiently, reducing observation concerns. First Impusa lunged once Issei entered the construction zone, abandoning pretense of humanity as it sensed isolation from potential witnesses. Chitinous limbs extended, mandibles chattering with hungry anticipation as it launched toward exposed prey. Boost. Power doubled within Issei as he sidestepped the attack with precision timing Vergil had drilled into him through countless training sessions. The Impusa's momentum carried it past intended target, confusion registering in its primitive consciousness as prey moved with unexpected speed. Issei countered immediately, gauntleted fist connecting with exoskeleton at precisely calculated impact point. Chitin cracked beneath sacred gear's enhanced strength, ichor spraying from the wound as the demon screeched in pain and surprise. Not killing blow, intentionally. The injured demon's distress called its companions more effectively than any energy signature could, accelerating containment process as additional impulsa converged on the construction zone. Across the plaza, Lucia implemented similar strategy with characteristic efficiency. Her curved blades danced through air with lethal precision, wounding rather than killing initial attackers, creating blue descent that drove remaining southern quadrant demons into feeding frenzy directed toward her position. Containment phase complete. Combat phase initiated. Boost. Second doubling of power prepare. DxD for multi-opponent engagement as 6 impulsa now surrounded him, mandibles clicking with hungry anticipation. Their fighting style proved predictable, lunging attacks with minimal coordination, relying on numerical advantage rather than tactical sophistication. Against an ordinary opponent, such advantage would prove decisive. Against Issei, trained by Vergil's merciless combat doctrine and enhanced by sacred gear activation, it merely provided efficient elimination opportunity. He moved through their attacks with fluid precision, each movement economical and purpose-driven. No wasted energy, no theatrical flourishes, just mathematical efficiency translated into combat application. Vergil would approve of the technique, if not the situation necessitating it. Never seek combat, his master had lectured during early training phases. When combat becomes necessary, conclude it with absolute efficiency. The impulsa fell one after another, gauntleted strikes shattering exoskeletons. At weak points Issei identified through observation and adaptation. Each elimination refined his understanding of their physiology, improving efficiency for subsequent engagements. Boost. Third D. Oobling prepared Issei for larger group now converging on his position. Approximately 15 demons abandoning pretense entirely, skittering across concrete on multiple limbs as evacuation neared completion. Police maintained perimeter, wonderfully oblivious to the true nature of what they contained. Specialized divisions within local government would manage aftermath explanation, training exercises, costumed performers. Mass hallucination from gas exposure, whatever narrative ordinary minds could accept. Issei prepared for escalated engagement, calculating power expenditure against opponent numbers. The boosted gear hummed along his arm, emerald energy pulsing in rhythm with his accelerated heartbeat. Additionally, blue energy pathways became increasingly visible beneath his skin, Vergil's demonic essence responding to combat conditions with eager resonance. Then something unexpected happened. As the impulsa mass approached, a scythe blade suddenly manifested through reality itself, ring dimensional fabric with casual ease. The weapon, impossibly sharp and emanating distinctly non-physical energy, carved through 3 demons simultaneously, their forms dissolving into particles before hitting ground. Through this dimensional tear floated a figure unlike anything Issei had encountered, petite female form in dark cloak and skirt, with skull motif accessories and striking purple-blue hair. Most distinctively, she hovered several inches above ground, legs ending not in feet but in ghostly wisps that suggested partial materialization. My, the apparition commented, voice surprisingly youthful and playful given her death-associated aesthetic. These little buggers certainly get around, don't they? Interdimensional parasites, basically. She twirled her scythe with casual mastery, blade humming through air with sound that resonated at frequencies slightly outside conventional auditory perception. The remaining impulsa recoiled from her presence, insectoid features registering something beyond mere physical threat, instinctive recognition of existential danger. Who are you? Issei demanded, maintaining combat readiness despite potential ally appearance. Vergil's training emphasized skepticism toward convenient interventions. The floating girl turned toward him, heterochromatic eyes, one gold, one blue, widening with delighted surprise. Oh, well, aren't you interesting? She drifted closer, studying him with unabashed curiosity. Human body, dragon power, and something else. Something from outside. She circled him, scythe balanced casually across her shoulders. You're practically a dimensional cocktail. Despite bizarre circumstance and ongoing combat situation, Issei maintained protocol. Identify yourself, he repeated, simultaneously activating communication device. Asia. Unknown entity has appeared at engagement site. Supernatural classification unclear. Combat capable. The floating girl pouted dramatically. So formal, but fair enough. She performed exaggerated bow midair. Benia Orcus, at your service. Grim Reaper class, though only half. Mom was human, which Dad never quite got over. She gestured toward the Impusa with her scythe. I've been tracking these dimensional parasites across 17 reality layers. They're like bedbugs. Get one infestation under control and they pop up somewhere else. Grim Reaper. The classify. Cation registered in Issei's supernatural taxonomy knowledge. Death spirits operating under various pantheons, typically maintaining separation between life and afterlife domains. Their appearance in seative human environments was exceedingly rare, particularly half-human variants, which existed in obscure mythological footnotes rather than documented encounters. Issei Hyodo, he replied, Decidin. G. Transparency offered best approach with entity capable of dimensional transit. Sacred Gear User. This is Kuo Town, Japan. You've crossed into our reality during period of dimensional barrier degradation. Oh, I didn't cross accidentally, Benia corrected cheerfully, dispatching another approaching Impusa with casual side swing. I followed deliberately. These dimensional parasites have been swimming through reality gaps for weeks now, but this spot, she gestured broadly at Kuo Town, this spot is special. Reality's super thin here, like tissue paper instead of proper dimensional walls. The assessment aligned with their own findings, though presented with disconcerting casualness. Before Issei could respond, Lucia appeared beside him, having dispatched her assigned targets with professional efficiency. The southern quadrant is clear, she reported, then noticed Benia with immediate combat reassessment. Death spirit manifestation, powerful, not from my dimension. Ooh, another traveler, Benia exclaimed, floating closer to inspect Lucia with similar unabashed curiosity. Artificial demon construct with human integration. Neat design work, much better craftsmanship than those bug things. Lucia tensed at the casual identification of her nature, information she hadn't disclosed to Issei during their brief alliance. How do you, death spirits perceive essence patterns? Benia explained with cheerful shrug. Can't help it, part of the job description. She turned back to Issei. Speaking of essence patterns, yours is ridiculously complex. Dragon layered WITH human layered with something from, she squinted at him, oh. From his dimension, she pointed at Lucia, but different classification, higher order, noble bloodline. The casual assessment of connections Issei and Vergil had deliberately kept confidential proved concerning. If this Benia could read such information at glance, her intelligence value increased proportionally, as did potential security risk should her allegiance prove problematic. The remaining Impusa, Issei redirected, indicating demons now retreating from Benia's presence. They're escaping containment zone. Oh, right, work before pleasure. Benia twirled her scythe, blade extending impossibly as reality bent around its arc. Stand back, dimensionally interesting people. What followed demonstrated why death spirits rarely appeared in combat situations, their efficiency rendered such encounters exceedingly brief. Benia moved through remaining demons with casual mastery, scythe passing through dimensional planes to sever connections between physical manifestation and spiritual essence. The Impusa didn't merely die, they ceased existing altogether, fundamental components separated across dimensional boundaries. Within moments, the engagement concluded, 20+ interdimensional demons eliminated with efficiency that even Vergil might acknowledge as impressive. Benia returned to hover before Issei and Lucia, twirling her scythe once before it vanished into apparent subspace pocket. All done, she announced cheerfully. Though these were just scouts, you know. The real migration hasn't even started. Migration? Lucia questioned sharply. You mean there are more coming? Oh, tons more, Benia confirmed with incongruous brightness. These dimensional parasites always follow the same pattern. Scouts first, then worker types, then the big predators. She gestured vaguely upward. Your dimensional barriers are practically shredded in spots. Once the alpha-class demons sense the openings. She made explosive gesture with her hands. Boom. Feeding frenzy. The casual apocalyptic prediction aligned disturbingly well with Vergil's assessment of progressive barrier degradation. Issei exchanged glances with Lucia, professional concern reflecting between them despite brief acquaintance. How long? Issei asked directly. Before major incursion. Benia considered, head tilting thoughtfully. Hard to say exactly. Dimensional math is super complex. But based on current degradation rates, she performed quick calculation on fingers. 26 hours. Give or take cosmic fluctuation variables. Just over 1 day before situation escalated from containment problem to potential catastrophe. The timeline demanded immediate strategic response. You track these entities across dimensions, Issei noted. Does that mean you also know how to repair dimensional barriers? Benia's expression shifted to something more serious, first glimpse beneath playful exterior to competent professional beneath. Repair is strong word, more like, reinforce, stabilize. Dimensional barriers are self-healing under normal circumstances, but something's actively degrading yours from multiple vectors. Kokabeel. Issei supplied. Fallen angel faction leader attempting to access power from alternate dimensions. Plus naturally occurring degradation from that guy's arrival, Benia added, pointing at Lucia. And the other one, the power-hungry half-devil with the fancy sword. Every transit weakens the barriers further. It's like poking holes in a dam. Each little hole makes the next one easier until eventually, another explosive gesture. Communication device activated with Asia's urgent update. Issei-san, Master Vergil requests immediate rendezvous at headquarters. He's encountered significant developments. Quote, the deliberate vagueness suggested information too sensitive for potential interception, unusual precaution given their secure communication protocols. Whatever Vergil had discovered warranted highest security classification. Decision point. How to handle two-dimensional travelers with valuable information and combat capabilities, yet unknown allegiance and reliability factors. Standard protocol would suggest separation and controlled information access. Practical reality of accelerating crisis suggested different approach. You're both tracking interdimensional phenomena. Issei addressed Lucia and Benia directly. We have established headquarters with monitoring equipment and research capacity. My master is investigating related developments. Cooperation would benefit mutual objectives. Lucia considered the invitation with professional assessment. Your master being Vergil, she clarified. Whose reputation in my dimension is complicated. That's putting it mildly. Benia interjected with knowing grin. The guy's dimensional footprint is like a neon sign saying, dangerous but interesting, across multiple reality layers. He's been focused on dimensional studies since arriving in our world, Issei stated carefully. His knowledge and capabilities have proven invaluable during recent supernatural conflicts. And he's been training you, Lucia noted. Studying Issei with renewed assessment. Creating hybrid capabilities using his own demonic essence. That suggests investment beyond mere self-interest. Oh, devil daddy issues at play. Benia commented with inappropriate cheerfulness. Classic redemption arc potential. Issei ignored the bizarre characterization, focusing on Lucia's legitimate concerns. Judge for yourself, he suggested pragmatically. Meet him. Assess the situation directly. If you decide against cooperation afterward, you remain free to pursue independent objectives. The approach respect. Her professional autonomy while acknowledging practical reality. Pooled intelligence offered greatest chance against accelerating dimensional crisis. After brief consideration, Lucia nodded agreement. Acceptable terms. Led on. I'm definitely coming too, Benia declared, floating excited circles around them. Dimensional barriers collapsing, powerful entities converging, mysterious half-dev. Ill with apocalyptic potential. This is the most fun I've had in centuries. Her enthusiasm for potential catastrophe proved disconcerting, but her knowledge of interdimensional phenomena represented critical resource they couldn't afford to reject. Issei nodded acceptance, then activated communication device. Asia, inform Master Vergil we're returning with two consultants specializing in dimensional phenomena. Threat assessment moderate, intelligence value high. Understood, Asia replied. He says to hurry. The situation has evolved significantly. As evacuation completed in Otho, Riddies established containment perimeter around affected area. Issei led their expanded group toward headquarters. Above them, the aurora had intensified to visible spectrum even in daylight, reality eye. TSELF protesting as dimensional boundaries continued deteriorating. 26 hours until major incursion. The countdown had begun. The warehouse atmosphere had transformed from tactical opera Taiwan's center to interdimensional crisis headquarters during Issei's absence. Equipment arrays expanded across available floor space, monitoring devices tracking energy fluctuations across increasingly unstable dimensional boundaries. Asia moved between workstations with focused efficiency, correlating data streams into coherent intelligence assessment. Most significantly, Vergil had modified the central platform where Yamato previously rested. The sword remained central focus, but now suspended vertically within concentric energy fields that pulsed with azure luminescence. Around this configuration, Vergil had inscribed complex sigils that resembled nothing from this world's magical traditions, symbols Issei recognized from brief glimpses of his master's personal grimoire, containing knowledge from his home dimension. Vergil himself stood perfectly still before this arrangement, eyes closed in deep concentration. He didn't acknowledge their arrival immediately, though certainly aware of their presence. Whatever working he performed required complete focus, unusual display of magical complexity from someone who typically preferred direct application of power rather than elaborate ritual mechanics. Lucia tensed upon seeing him, hand moving unconsciously toward concealed weapons. Beside her, Benia displayed opposite reaction, drifting forward with undisguised fascination. "Ooh, nice setup," the half-grim Reaper commented, studying the energy configuration with professional appreciation. Dimensional harmonization array with recursive stabilization matrix. Very elegant design. Vergil's eyes opened at the assessment, focusing immediately on the floating girl with cold calculation. Death essence. Reaper classification. Hybrid manifestation with human genetic integration. His gaze shifted to Lucia. Recognition registering instantly. Artificially constructed demon hunter. Doomery Island origin. Connection to Dante's operations. The immediate and accurate identification of both visitors demonstrated Vergil's exceptional perception abilities, matching Benia's casual essence reading but from different metaphysical framework. Correct on all counts, Benia confirmed cheerfully, utterly unfazed by his intimidating presence. "I'm Benia. That's Lucia. We're both dimensional travelers tracking interdimensional nasties. Your student invited us to pooled intelligence exchange, which seems super efficient given the whole reality falling apart situation." Vergil's expression revealed nothing beyond analytical assessment. "Your knowledge of dimensional mechanics appears substantial," he noted, indicating her earlier technical assessment of his configuration. "Death spirits exist between dimensional boundaries," Benia explained, floating casual circle around the energy array. "Part of the job description, making sure things that die stay in their proper afterlife jurisdictions. Though being half-human means I get more flexibility in manifestation parameters than full Reapers." Issei watched this exchange with cautious optimism. Vergil's tolerance for Benia's casual approach suggested recognition of her intelligence value despite eccentric presentation. His attention shifted to Lucia, who maintained professional composure despite evident wariness. "You know who I am," Vergil stated rather than asked. "By reputation," Lucia confirmed. "From Dante's accounts primarily." Something flickered across Vergil's expression at his brother's name, too brief to interpret definitively, yet suggesting complex emotional response beneath controlled exterior. "My brother's characterizations tend toward dramatic oversimplification," he replied with cold precision. "Particularly regarding motivations beyond his comprehension. He said you were brilliant, dangerous, and singularly focused on power acquisition beyond all other considerations," Lucia countered evenly. "The assessment seems accurate based on available evidence." Rather than taking offense, Vergil acknowledged the evaluation with fractional nod. "Historically valid, if incompletely contextualized. Current circumstances necessitate priority adjustments." His gaze returned to the dimensional array, where energy patterns shifted in response to Aurora's intensification outside. The barrier degradation accelerates beyond initial projections. Major incursion preparation manifests across multiple entry vectors. 26 hours, Benia confirmed, suddenly serious despite her typically playful demeanor. "That's my calculation for full-scale breakthrough based on current degradation rates. The alpha predators are gathering just beyond the thinning spots, sensing easy feeding opportunity." "Your assessment aligns with advanced modeling projections," Vergil acknowledged, indicating complex data visualization hovering above one monitoring station. "Though with acceleration factors, the timeframe may compress further." Issei processed this exchange with growing concern. Both dimensional experts, from entirely different metaphysical frameworks, reaching same conclusion independently, suggested situation gravity beyond initial understanding. What exactly are these alpha predators? He asked, seeking concrete threat assessment. Higher order demonic entities, Lucia explained, professional knowledge evident. In my dimension, they would be classified as demon lords or greater archdukes. Immensely powerful, with reality-altering capabilities and individual manifestation signatures. Basically the apex nasties, Benia added helpfully. Not mindless parasites like those bug things, but intelligent predators with complex motivations beyond simple feeding patterns. They're drawn to dimensional weak spots because they can absorb massive energy during transition events. The description aligned with Vergil's rare references to higher-order entities from his home dimension, beings of power comparable to ultimate-class devils in this world's supernatural hierarchy. Can they be fought? Issei asked directly. Individually, yes, Lucia confirmed. With appropriate power levels and specialized techniques. In aggregate, she shook her head. The damage would be catastrophic even if successful. Which is why prevention rather than confrontation provides optimal strategy, Vergil concluded, returning attention to the dimensional array. I've established monitoring configuration to identify specific incursion vectors and barrier weakness patterns. With sufficient data, targeted reinforcement becomes possible. Selective dimensional patching. Benia drifted closer to the array, studying its mechanics with evident professional interest. That's ambitious even for someone with your power classification. The energy requirements would be. She performed quick mental calculation. Astronomical, basically. Unless, Vergil countered with cold precision, one utilizes existing power sources with established dimensional resonance properties. His gaze shifted meaningfully to Issei, specifically his left arm, where the boosted gear remained partially manifested. The implication registered immediately. The sacred gear, Issei realized. Combined with the demonic energy integration we've been developing. Correct. Vergil's acknowledgement carried rare approval. The dragon essence within the boosted gear originates from this world's creation mythology, fundamentally connected to its dimensional framework. The demonic energy I've transferred derives from alternate dimensional structure with different metaphysical underpinnings. Creating hybrid resonance pattern capable of interfacing with both realities simultaneously, Lucia concluded, professional interest overcoming previous wariness as she recognized theoretical elegance. Potentially viable stabilization mechanism, assuming controlled energy transfer protocols. Is such control even possible? Asia asked, joining conversation with practical concern. The integration is still developing within Issei-san's system. Forced acceleration could cause unpredictable outcomes. Risk factors exist, Vergil acknowledged without emotional inflection. However, LTER native scenarios present greater certainty of catastrophic result. The clinical assessment characterized Vergil perfectly, calculating odds without emotional distortion, accepting necessary risks. When probability favored specific approach despite potential costs. Yet Issei detected subtle undertone beneath his master's typical coldness, genuine concern regarding procedure implications. Not merely for operational success, but for his apprentice's well-being. What exactly would this procedure involve? Issei asked directly. Vergil activated data visualization displaying complex energy transfer pathway. 3-phase implementation. First, sacred gear power accumulation beyond standard parameters. Second, demonic energy integration catalyzed through specific resonance patterns. Third, controlled discharge through dimensional harmonization matrix. The boosted gear can stack doubling effects, Issei noted, studying the projection. But I've never sustained beyond 4 consecutive boosts without significant strain. 8 would be required minimum, Vergil stated flatly. Preferably 12. The requirement seemed impossible given current developmental parameters. Even with months of intensive training, Issei had never approached such power accumulation threshold. That would kill him, Asia protested, concern overriding usual deference to Vergil's authority. The physiological strain alone would be considerable, Vergil acknowledged. Hence graduated implementation timeline with appropriate stabilization intervals. I might be able to help with that, Benia interjected. Studying the proposed procedure with surprising technical assessment. Death spirits can manipulate soul-body connection points, kinda necessary for our regular job. I could establish temporary buffer systems to distribute strain across metaphysical structures rather than concentrating in physical vessel. And I have experience with artificial energy distribution networks, Lucia added. Professional problem solving engaging despite personal reservations. Designed specifically for managing demonic power flows through non-native conduits. Vergil assessed both offers with calculating precision. Combined approach offers viability improvement of approximately 37%. He turned toward Issei. The decision, however, remains yours. The procedure carries significant risk despite precautionary measures. The statement represented unprecedented respect for Issei's agency. Vergil typically issued directives rather than offering choices. The shift suggested recognition of both Issei's development and the procedure's serious implications. Partner. The voice resonated within Issei's consciousness rather than physical space. Deep, ancient, carrying power accumulated across millennia. DxD. The Welsh dragon sealed within the boosted gear, rarely communicated directly. His emergence now indicated situation gravity beyond ordinary parameters. DxD. Issei acknowledged internally. Maintaining external composure while engaging metaphysical communication. The convergence accelerates beyond projected parameters. The vessel, U, approaches evolutionary threshold earlier than anticipated. Because of Vergil's demonic energy integration. Partially. But dimensional barrier degradation creates additional catalyst effect. Your hybrid nature responds to instability by adapting toward new equilibrium state. The dragon's assessment aligned with physical symptoms Issei had experienced. Blue energy pathways becoming increasingly prominent. Occasional power surges manifesting without conscious activation. Dreams filled with transformation imagery. Can I sustain the power levels Vergil's procedure requires? Not without transformation. Your current form lacks necessary structural integrity. But transformation itself carries evolutionary implications beyond temporary manifestation. Meaning, you will become something new, partner. Neither purely human, dragon, nor devil. A convergence entity existing at dimensional intersection point. The implication carried existential weight beyond tactical considerations. Not merely risking physical harm, but fundamental identity transformation. Becoming something unprecedented across multiple realities. External conversation continued while this internal dialogue proceeded. Vergil, Lucia, and Benia discussing technical implementation details while Asia monitored dimensional disruption patterns with growing concern. Incoming energy spike, she announced suddenly. Northern quadrant. All attention shifted to monitoring displays, where red warning indicators illuminated major disturbance forming approximately 3 kilometers from their position. Unlike previous fluctuations, this signature showed a deliberate pattern formation, not random degradation but calculated manipulation. Dimensional puncture attempt. Vergil identified immediately, moving to primary observation equipment. External entity forcing localized breach. Classification. Lucia asked. Professional assessment mode engaged. Vergil studied energy signatures with cold precision. Devil adjacent. Upper hierarchical tier. Manipulation signatures suggest. Ceremonial framework familiar to this dimension's supernatural infrastructure. Fallen angel. Issei concluded. Kokabeel returning to continue what we interrupted. Affirmative. Vergil confirmed. Monitoring equipment tracking power accumulation at disturbance epicenter. Utilizing different methodology but pursuing identical objective. Controlled dimensional breach to access external power sources. The situation demanded immediate response. Their 26-hour timeline had just compressed dramatically. Kokabeel's intervention accelerating barrier degradation beyond even pessimistic projections. Decision point. Continue preparation for Vergil's controlled reinforcement procedure, or respond directly to Kokabeel's renewed attempt. Strategic assessment. Suggested both required immediate attention, necessitating operational division despite resource limitations. I'll confront Kokabeel, Issei decided, sacred gear fully materializing along his arm as determination solidified. Delay his ritual long enough for you to complete procedure preparations. Negative, Vergil countered immediately. Your capabilities are central to reinforcement protocol. Tactical allocation to secondary objective compromises primary mission parameters. But no one else can engage Kokabeel effectively, Issei argued, unusual for him to directly challenge Vergil's assessment. His power classification exceeds conventional response capacity among available assets. I'll go with him, Lucia interjected, professional assessment overriding personal reservations. Combined approach provides viable delay strategy while primary objective advances. Her gaze met Vergil's directly. You know I'm qualified for combat against entities of that classification. And I can establish temporary dimensional buffer around the breach attempt, Benia added with surprising practicality. Not permanent solution, but enough to buy preparation time for the big reinforcement plan. The proposed division of resources offered practical compromise between competing priorities. Vergil considered it with characteristic thoroughness, calculating success probabilities against available alternatives. Acceptable, he finally concluded, but with specific operational parameters. He turned toward Issei, expression revealing genuine concern beneath typical coldness. Engagement limits strictly defensive, delay and disruption only. Direct confrontation with Kokubile exceeds current capability threshold even with combined approach. The warning carried unusual emotional weight from someone typically focused on power potential rather than cautionary limitation. Issei recognized both tactical wisdom and something deeper, genuine concern for his apprentice's well-being beyond mere operational success considerations. Understood, Issei confirmed, already mentally reviewing combat strategies appropriate for delay objectives rather than decisive victory. Disruption and intelligence gathering only. No direct engagement beyond necessary defensive measures. Asia approached, twilight healing already activated along her fingers. Take these, she said, offering specie. Ally prepared medical packages designed for field treatment of supernatural injuries. And promise you'll retreat if the situation exceeds containment parameters. I promise, Issei assured her, ACC. Epting both medical supplies and implicit concern behind them. Fascinating relationship dynamics, Benia observed with inappropriate cheerfulness, twirling her manifested scythe casually. Very family-like for such a combat-oriented operational group. The observation, though delivered with characteristic irreverence, contained unexpected insight. Their months together had indeed formed ties beyond mere tactical alliance, genuine bonds developing despite Vergil's emotional distance and the extraordinary circumstances of their collaboration. Temporal consideration becomes critical, Vergil stated, returning conversation to immediate priorities. Kokubile's power signature indicates ritual preparation approximately 67% complete. Intervention must occur within 22 minutes for optimal disruption effect. We move now, Issei confirmed, turning toward Lucia and Benia. Coordinate approach vectors en route. Converge at disturbance epicenter from multiple angles to maximize tactical surprise advantage. The directives emerged with natural authority, months of Vergil's training and recent combat experience developing leadership capacity that would have been unimaginable. In the ordinary high school student he'd been before Raynor's attack. Both dimensional travelers nodded acceptance, recognizing legitimate tactical assessment despite his relative youth. As they prepared to depart, Vergil approached Issei directly, uncharacteristic intensity in his typically cold gaze. Precision rather than power, he instructed, hand resting briefly on his apprentice's shoulder. Observe the dimensional manipulation techniques Kokubile employs. Such intelligence provides critical advantage for counter-strategy development. The guidance focused on practical tactical considerations. Yet the physical contact, unprecedented in their relationship, conveyed deeper message. Concern, respect, perhaps even something approaching genuine connection between master and student. I won't fail you, Issei replied simply. This isn't about failure prevention, Vergil corrected with unusual directness. It's about ensuring your return to complete what we've begun. The NT hung between them, closest Vergil had come to expressing direct personal concern rather than tactical consideration. Before Issei could respond, his master turned away, returning attention to dimensional array with characteristic focus. Dimension squad, move out, Benia declared with inappropriate enthusiasm, floating toward exit while spinning her scythe in elaborate patterns. Let's go poke a fallen angel who's poking reality. Despite situation gravity, Issei found himself appreciating the Half-Reaper's irrepressible spirit. As they departed headquarters, leaving Vergil and Asia to advanced procedure preparation. Aurora overhead intensified to painful brightness, reality itself screaming warning as dimensional barriers continued deteriorating. 22 minutes to prevent Kokobeel's ritual completion. Beyond that, unknown hours before major incursion threatened multiple realities. The countdown accelerated with each passing moment as Issei led their unlikely alliance toward confrontation with forces beyond conventional comprehension. The storm Vergil had referenced months ago wasn't merely approaching anymore. It had arrived, and they stood at its eye while realities themselves trembled around them. Chapter 3 End. The End. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.